warriors for Christ. Biblical, bold, speaking the truth while being uncompromising. The world is in a very dark place. Our job is to wake up the church and to fight back against the wickedness in the world. Our ministry believes in being effective versus relevant. We want to see lives changed and souls saved. Success is not measured in material wealth or possessions. Get ready for the truth. From America's leading street ministry, this is Warriors for Christ. And here's your host, Rich Penkoski.
All right. Hey, guys. How are you? God bless you guys. Well, here I am again doing my testimony again because, I've actually had numerous requests to do it again. I've done it a couple times. I remember the first time I did it, it was one of the first live streams I ever did, and that was on Facebook when they were relatively new to live streaming video. I had it on our old channel, which obviously was subsequently removed because... a closeted homosexual flagged our videos for outing him. And yes, I'm saying that. But before I begin in my testimony, I want to say this. You know, this newer channel, I looked at it as an opportunity for more preaching, stuff like that. However, I find that I will have no choice but to do an exposing video or two myself. And I know my audience typically doesn't like that stuff. And again, nobody really does. But when you were slandered, harassed, and stalked literally every day of your life, not only you, but your wife, your children, by men who claim to be Christian, something's got to be said. And I'm not going to talk directly to these people because I was advised not to actually engage with them individually. But I will say this is... You know, when you obsess to the point where my wife can't even list stuff on Facebook Marketplace without these people checking up on her, it's pretty sad and pathetic. This isn't your typical, person that comes on and trolls and leaves a stupid comment and then goes away, right? That's about 95% of what happens on social media, right? These people, they'll say a couple stupid things, but for the most part, once they get whatever they're done saying, they leave you alone, right? That's typically your typical troll. This is very different. You've got a guy down in Georgia, all right, a two-time felon with a history, at least of being arrested for violence, for selling drugs near a park or playground or school, convicted of that. You have another guy who literally pretended to be friends of mine just so he can get information and distort it and twist later on because he wants to be a social media guru, whatever he wants. But these two guys literally sit there day and night obsessing over me, my wife, and at the time, my 17-year-old daughter. These are men who have, again, when one goes out in public, homosexuals recognize him, not by name, and they always go, do you know who, and it's happened more than once, Kentucky and Tennessee, that area. The other one, how anybody can even conceive that this guy is even a Christian when he spends day and night literally talking about me and my family. And again, most people say, oh, just move on. You're right. But you can't ignore, this is 3 years and over 3 years, and it doesn't stop. It literally doesn't stop. The sun rises and sets on me with these people. They have computer files dedicated to me on their computer where they sit around and use my image to make cartoons. They literally will take clips and concoct crazy, there's some of the most insanely idiotic things to say about my wife, my family, and my children. These people are some of the most depraved, wicked people I have ever met. And you can tell who they are by their behavior. They are not Christians by any stretch of the imagination. There's nothing about them. When you were obsessed with somebody to the point where you can't even function or even go a day without mentioning their name when you're talking to somebody else with nothing to do, doesn't even know me or anybody else that's associated with me, you're a devil. When you can literally say, because again, you want to run a been verified check and wife, be my guest. But when you sit there and say, there's an email address attached to it, she must do porn. Well, I guess when we look up your background and we see an email address named Ellen or whatever it is, a woman, I guess you were a transgender. If we use your rationale, if we use your way of judging, I guess that would mean that you're a transgender, wouldn't it? After all, what are you doing with a female's email address? Are you pretending to be a woman? This is the level of depravity these people are at. They are sick and twisted individuals. And I know I said it before, but I have had enough. They have pushed me to the point now where I am absolutely going to I will make sure both of these guys are 2-time felons. I promise you, I will not rest until they are put in jail for what they are doing. Stalking, harassment. They're even one guy's going down to Atlanta who's never been there before forever just to go to me and Ruben. That is stalking. But when you're a threat to the kingdom of darkness, that's what the devil does. And any Christian with any amount of discernment at all. And again, let's look at the people who follow Eric Love. One of them is a woman who is a busybody who got upset with me because I called her out for living with a man outside of marriage. The other one is a guy who literally goes into clients' homes because he's a cleaning lady, goes into clients' homes and videos, whatever it is, you don't go into a client's home and video somebody's bedroom. I understand that, the video that he put up there had some weird book in it, whatever it was, an LGBT book, but you don't take a video inside a kid's bedroom and then put it up publicly. You just don't do that. The other one, I can't even begin to tell you how evil that guy is, the one in Gallatin or wherever he's at now. I can't even begin to tell you. This is a guy that calls me gluttonous. Have you seen the size of that guy? That guy's got more chins than a Chinese phone book. Him calling me gluttonous is like fat bastard calling Buddha fat. This is the same guy who is married but wrote love letters to his ex telling her how much he loves her still. Calls everybody a slanderer except for him, of course. And of course, you have Eric Love there. Everybody's a liar. The cops are liars. The judges are liars. I'm a liar. Amanda's a liar. Everyone's a liar except for him. After all, remember my restraining against him was dismissed because there was no case. That's a flat out lie. When his lawyer made a motion to dismiss, the judge dismissed his motion and said, no, your client needs to come and answer. The only reason it was dismissed is because he told his lawyer that he would stop harassing and stalking my wife and remove any content about my children from his channel. He did not do what he said. And the Bible says, let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. And he rationalized and made excuses as to why he will not let his yea be yea. So we already know he's a liar. The other one, it looks like the guy, the sloth from Ice Age. These people are insane. And yet somehow or other, their own little groupie, and they all go to Eric Love for he must be the guy. One of them even cried recently and said, why are you talking to my personal life? You don't even know me. You do it all the time. But when I do an exposing video, you see, they only know I do it because they follow me. I don't tag them. I don't try to get them to watch my videos. They'll know because they stalk me. You see, well, never mind. So I've had enough. And when you guys see that stuff, because I will not rest until they are in jail. I am not joking. I'm not kidding. I have more than enough evidence. And in Tennessee, it's a lot easier. It's going to be a lot easier for me to take care of that guy in Tennessee for what he's doing and what he's done. And then in Georgia, you'll see. But I will not, I have enough. And again, this isn't your typical troll stuff. These people are years doing this. Literally, my wife sells stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and they are there watching what she does there. And we have proof of it. They literally went on to my 17-year-old daughter times Facebook. Why are you creeping on my daughter's Facebook page? Oh, let me guess, because I was using it, right? Lie. You have no idea. I have never once, and I will testify that all day long. I have never once logged in to my daughter's profile to use it in any way, shape, or form. It's a lie. But the stalking in and of itself is not Christian behavior. It's not. Just because you're not abusive with your fists anymore doesn't mean you're still not abusive. You've traded one form of abuse for another. Therefore, you are not repentant. You are not born again. You are the same person. It's like the crack who changes one addiction for another addiction. Maybe you're not doing blow anymore, but you're addicted to something else. You've traded one addiction for another. You're still an addict. You're still an abusive predator. Just because you're not, getting restraining orders put against you from women anymore, just because you're not slinging dope around kids anymore, you're still a scumbag, and you're still an unsaved person. So I want to get that out of the way because I've had it. I've had enough. And I know they'll cry victim because I posted about his arrest, and he's claiming, oh, I was like, he put screenshots of whatever arrest, but the guy's been convicted of felonies. Both of them have. And I'm sorry, but for me personally, there's a lot of people in churches that have been abused by men. A lot of women are in churches today who have lived in abusive relationships, who have lived with men who have abused them. And I believe if you've been convicted of abuse, or if you have had any domestic violence against you, you have no business being in front of women, leading any women anywhere in a church setting, because you are re-victimizing women through all that. You see, they've been doing this for 3 years in hopes that someday what they're going to do is going to stop whatever we're doing, but it doesn't. The only people that try to stop those exposing pedophiles are usually pedophiles themselves. You notice they focus all their attention on me, but not on the drag stuff, not on the, do you know how much we've exposed? Just today, I got an email back from one of my state legislators, and he said he called Oklahoma State University after I had messaged him and showed him what we showed him, and they're not going to be doing kitty drag queens and stuff anymore. And then we're going to have a meeting with him. Another senator is introducing a bill that's going to say anybody that does surgeries under kids under 21, transgender surgery under 21, should be giving a life sentence because he believes it is abuse. And I agree with him, and we're going to help him push that as well. That's the work that we do. While these guys sit around making cartoon images of me, lying about me, watching everything my wife does, that's what we do. And they claim to be Christian. They're not. They're not. The Bible says that when you held hands with a gossip, with a talebearer, you are just as guilty as them. And if you use what the lie that Eric Love says about me and my family, if that's your basis for you to say whatever, you're not a witness to anything other than what he says. You listening to somebody else to become a witness, the Bible literally says not to do that. But when you literally when I make a video like this, 2 or 3 hours, whatever it's going to be, and you take a clip from that and frame a narrative, whatever, instead of the whole, you're wicked as hell. There's literally no way you can justify that. It's pure evil. My wife, who doesn't do anything to anybody ever, can't even list, we have clothes that we fed packed up. We're not having any more children. Can't even list that without these guys watching and talking about what she's listing on Facebook Marketplace. That's how sick these people are. And by the way, they're both married men. Why are they watching what my wife does on Facebook? Why are they watching my 17-year-old daughter? Why do they have ads popping up of children's underwear on their Facebook feeds? But let me guess, I'm making this up. Those are their own words. You notice I don't take clips of theirs. The only time he ever did this once, Eric, when he was reading something online, which he says I wrote, and his only thing was because of a typo that I've seen hundreds of times, but somehow that's me. You see, because that's what they do. They think everybody else does it too. These people are wicked, pure, and simple. Now, what the sad fact is, J.T. Olson in Tennessee there, this guy actually thinks that he's a street preacher. He actually comes out and says, we did this, we did that. Nobody even works with the guy. Nobody likes him. His reputation in Tennessee is if his mouth is moving, he's lying. Even when I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, I was told by sheriff deputies, I was told by criminal investigators to stay away from that guy because he's nothing but trouble. He's a troublemaker. This is a guy that records everything. We went out to lunch with John McGlone and Eric Painter, and I forgot my camera was on. It's such a lie. And they both said that he literally edited those clips to make it say something it's not because he wanted to sow discord. And John McGlone called him out on it and said we should not be talking about Rich when he's not here. But that's what they do and claim to be Christian. The guy, J.T. Olson, by the way, sent me a message. Said, I want peace with you. And then type my name in Google. Whenever somebody wrote me, there he is. They're all liars. What they do is they're victimizers that play the victim when you defend yourself. But I've had enough, and I promise you, they will be dealt with. If they're making fake profiles of you, give me the profile. If you can, give me the URL of the channel link. I'm telling you, I'm having these guys will be locked up for what they're doing. I already have somebody that absolutely will send a subpoena to Facebook and YouTube. I already know for a fact he'll do it because he told me when he's done it before. Just give me the YouTube name and the URL of the account and I will find out who they are. And I promise you, if it's the guy in Tennessee, he's going to jail, no questions asked. If it's a guy in Georgia, a little bit more work, but he's going to go in jail for what he's doing. It is a crime what he's doing. In my state of Oklahoma, cyber stalking is a crime, and they will go get him for it. They will absolutely go. We already found this out. There's a guy that went to prison for the same thing. I'm done. I wanted to just whatever. He's trying to take me from my family. No, you're doing that by being a criminal. Again, once a criminal, hey, look, if you're repentant, you wouldn't be a criminal anymore. You wouldn't be breaking law or skirting law, whatever you do. But that's what you do. Cyber stalking is a crime. It's a moral crime and it's a legal crime, especially here in Oklahoma. I promise you, they will be dealt with. But anyway, on to business. So I've been asked several times to give my testimony again because, there are Christians out there that have similar testimonies as mine. I don't think I'm anything special when it comes to testimony. Lots of people have been, delivered and set free from drugs. Lots of people have been delivered and set free from all kinds of things in life. Some people have been through a lot worse than things that I've ever been to. As a matter of fact, when I hear testimonies of transgenders and homosexuals that have come out of that lifestyle, I'm absolutely amazed by that because, compared to being a drug addict, that stuff, you want to talk about addiction, I mean, that stuff there is just, it's amazing to me to see what God does with these people and how he transforms people. And I've had a transformation in my life. And like I said, I'm amazed by all the others testimonies I hear as well. So I'm gonna tell you here. My testimony is when I tell it fully, which I hope to do on the video, people tend to cry. Even when I got saved, the church I got saved at, which is not anything like they used to be. I don't know what they're doing now, but even the pastor there was crying. The church, when I gave my testimony, church cried. And the pastor even said at that time, I was 20 years old, and said that I have been through more and seen more in my 20 years of life on this planet than most adults will ever see in their life. Everything I'm going to tell you has been verified. As a matter of fact, Steve Jordahl from American Family Association offered to ghostwrite my testimony after hearing, I asked one of the guys, and you'll hear later on in my testimony, we reconnected about the drink. And here's what he said. He goes, all I remember is when we were together hanging out was a lot of drugs and a lot of sex. We partied hard and we partied a lot. There was a lot of drugs. So we have people there that can verify. This isn't a testimony where I'm just saying stuff. I mean, you know, I dated a girl once years ago who her sister worked for DIFUS. That's what they called CPS back then. Who illegally pulled my file and went to her sister and said, you might not want to date this guy. He's probably really screwed up because of what happened to me as a kid. She saw the pictures and everything else. So my testimony is 100% verified. This isn't something I'm just saying, just have a good story. It's not a good story. It's actually a tragic story. It's a good story from where we are now, but growing up and what I had to deal with and what I've seen, it's not good. But again, you know, it's a testimony to God's glory and God's power and how he can deliver somebody from what they were and who they were into what they have become now. And I'm going to share it again with you guys. So I'll start, you know, at the beginning, I guess. And, you know, most of you know by now, I was born and raised in New Jersey. My father was a cop. My mother was 19 when she's pregnant. My dad was in his 20s, early 20s, whatever, you know, pretty new to the force. You know, again, the two of them, not a great match. You know, my grandfather, you know, told my mother that he would raise me if she didn't want to because she was only 19. But regardless, anyway, I was born and all that stuff there. And then, you know, I have two brothers and a sister. But, you know, my childhood at an early age wasn't what is that? Okay. Wasn't exactly, you know, a great childhood. A matter of fact, the only memories I have of childhood are bad memories. I don't remember any Christmases. I don't remember any Easters. I don't remember I don't remember anything like that when I was a kid. Nothing. But, you know, my parents fought a lot. My father did hit my mom. I saw it. We lived in Barnegat, New Jersey. And a lot of this stuff is not really, I mean, you know, this is the stuff that kind of made me into who I was when I was a teenager. But my father did abuse my mother. I mean, he smacked her around. He beat her. My mom cheated on my father. Matter of fact, the guy she cheated with used to come to my house, and we had to call him a different name so that my father wouldn't find out who he was. Well, anyway, my mom got knocked up by him. Had my sister, she, you know, and my father they got divorced anyway. So my father, I mean, he was cheating on my mom. He's, you know, left and right. And you know, so finally they had enough. My father met my stepmother, my first stepmother. We like to call her the Wicked Witch of the West. We used to have a song for her. You know that song, the Bang Bang on the Door by B-52s? The neighborhood used to say Bang Bang on the Whore when it came to her. That was her reputation. My father met her because she had the reputation of giving the best oral sex in town, so he pulled her over, and that's how they met. But anyway, so my mom was a drunk. There's no way around that. She was a drunk. And one of my first, you know, we lived in an apartment in West Paterson, New Jersey. And I remember very specifically, we had this apartment and it was, you know, you walked in the hallway, you walked in the door, there's a living room, then it was like a little dining room, the kids was off to the right, and then you had two bedrooms towards the back. And our bedroom was to the right, my mother's was to the left. And this was my first experience, at least that I can remember, with the paranormal, because we used to say, and again, that apartment was haunted. We know now there's no such thing as ghosts, but at the time, you know, I was a kid, I didn't know. But we would, you know, my mom would go out and do what she did, and my cousin would come over and watch us, and we'd be in my room, and we would hear people jumping in my mom's bed. And my mom wasn't home, you know, like she was gone, and there were people, you know, and there was nobody there. So that was my first, at least my first memory of paranormal stuff that I was, you know, or at least spiritual stuff that I was involved in. And at the same point too, I had this dresser that, you know, it was a long dress like this, and it had 3 drawers in the middle, and it had these 2, I guess, you know, I don't know, suicide doors, I guess, open like this, and then each one of those had 3 little drawers inside. Those drawers would actually open and bam, bam, and shut by themselves, and my clothes would come out. They'd be all over the floor the next morning, and you know, I was involved in this stuff, and as a kid, I was scared, but I was also really curious about it. You know, I used to walk to school, you know, because West Paterson, the schools were, you know, pretty close by, and I was what they called a latchkey kid at the time. I had a key to the apartment, so when I came home, I could just go in and, you know, do my homework or what have you, until my mom got home from work. So there was one day that specifically I remember. I came home and I put the key in the door and I look under and I saw feet prints, shadows of feet, like dancing. And I'm like, what? I put my ear against the door and I heard like a party. And I said, what is this? I heard glasses clinging together. And again, I see the feet moving under the door. And I mean, all of a sudden I got real scared. I put my book in the door handle and I ran upstairs to the landlord's apartment, or the super, whatever they call those guys. And I said, somebody's in my apartment. He came down, opened the door. There was nobody there. And I would not go in I actually stayed with him the rest of that day. Until my mom came home, I would not go back in that house. But again, I was very curious. But I believe that now that I look back on that, I could say that this was I guess because of the way my parents were, they were not Christian at all. My mom being a drunk, my father being an adulterer. My father would come over, and sleep with my mom just to get, so my mother can get child support out of him. So our life growing up was already like this. My mom tried to kill herself, right? She had this guy she was dating. His name was Chuck. And I remember him because he had an old Corvette. And, my mom would sleep with him next door to us, and we heard it. It was disturbing, disgusting, it was traumatizing. But he broke up with her, and he was in the apartment, and she tried to take a whole bottle of sleeping pills. I think they were sleeping pills. And I remember him going in the bathroom and smacking the bottle of her hand because she tried to kill herself. We had an old station wagon. It was me, my brother Brian, and my sister Dawn. And we were in the back seat of the station wagon. My mom was in the front seat, and she had a glass of wine. And she was already drunk. My aunt was outside of the car trying to get the glass from her. And I remember my mom saying, I'm going to kill myself, and I'm taking these kids with me. And I remember grabbing my brother and sister and saying, I don't remember what I said, but I think I said something, it'll be okay or whatever. And then after that, my mom had packed my bags up in a garbage bag and dropped me off at the police station, my father. And she took off and went to a mental institution. So I go to my father, and I'm already kind of messed up at this, right? I'm already kind of going into a dark area of my life. I'm really interested in occultic things. I'm still a kid. We lived in Flanders, New Jersey. I remember it was an apartment, and it was like, it took a while to get down the hill and up to the bus stop. But we're there with my father and my first stepmother, and she started abusing me and my brother physically pretty bad. My brother got the worst of it because she kicked him in the nuts. She took my father's police belt and beat us and whacked us with it. Took sticks and beat us with it. Would throw things at us. Would literally call us, every name in the book. I mean, it was really bad. And her and my father would leave pictures of them having sex all over the house we could find. And it's odd because, we used to have this place down in our apartment building downstairs. It was like a cubby hole. And my father would Playboy magazines, and we would take them and hide them in there and read them. And I started kind of being curious about drugs. And I didn't do drugs yet at the time, but I took packets of Equal and I snorted them like they were Coke. And we would actually ditch school. And I was young. I wasn't even a teenager yet. And I would actually go get drunk. Okay. And and my father used to help me get drunk sometimes. This I do it on my own, but you got, rewinding a little bit, I was like 4 or 5 years old, and my cousin got his communion, and my father got me and my brother drunk. We were loaded. And, we were crying and freaking out. And my father was laughing. My grandfather was laughing. And my mom, she was really upset about it. She's like, these kids are whatever, and you're getting them drunk. So we were exposed to a lot of things very early on in life. Not good stuff either. So up until this point, we're in Flanders, and, my brother, he had a rough time in school. He was in the special classes, and, he handled a very different life. I learned to kind of step out of myself and deal with it and just close myself off, to no feeling. But, my brother couldn't do that. So, he would get bad reports from school. They had these little notebooks, and they would give him a report every day. He was, and my stepmother said, if you get a bad report today, don't come home from school. He got a bad report, and I said, you know what? She said, let's not go home. And we didn't go home. We ran away, and we lived in the woods for a day. And I remember we could see the cops driving by looking for us. They couldn't find us. We were in the woods. Well, anyway, it was cold at night, and we finally went and called my mom and said, hey. And she's like, where are you? Where are you? And I said, we're at this apartment here. And we told them, and then the cops came and got us and took us to the police station, and my father and someone came and picked us up, and on the way back to the apartment, they didn't say a word. We get to the apartment, and my stepmother rips into us, literally takes our shoelaces out of our shoes, takes away our shoes and everything else. We had school the next day, told us we can't eat nothing. So we go to school the next day. We have no shoelaces. Our shoes are too small. Our clothes are too small. And, I'm in class, and you could tell something's not right. My brother Michael, anyway, Miss Montguzzi, I remember her name too. It was Miss Montguzzi. It's amazing. I remember these people's names. Pulled me out of class, and I said, what's going on? And she goes, come with me to the cafeteria. And there, my brother Mike was sitting there eating a bowl of cereal. And they said, you hungry? Give me a bowl of cereal. And Mr. Doritas, he was a gym teacher. We all thought he was mean and a jerk. In this moment, this was the most compassionate I've ever seen this guy. He literally unlaced a football or ball, some kind of ball, and gave it to us to put in our shoes. And they called CPS, or DIFUS at the time. And they're giving us breakfast, and they're feeding us, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. And then after that, they took us into a room, and it was Miss Montguzzi. The principal was there. There was a teacher, Mrs. Anderson was her name. I can't believe I remember these names. And my father came in, and CPS, they had already taken pictures of our back. We had these welts about this big, across our entire back. Because my stepmother had taken a stick, like a big stick, and wham, and hit our backs like a baseball bat. Now, she got my brother worse than me. I got whipped with the belt. I got hit with the stick maybe once, but they wailed at him, and she kicked him in the nuts. It was bad. So we're sitting at the table, and my brother and I here, that Miss Montgomery's here, Miss Anderson's over here, and the CPS here, my father's at the end, and CPS literally went to my father and said, you are not getting your hand on these kids. There is no way they're going back home with you. And my father cried. It's the only time I've ever seen my father cry, and he left. Now, what's going to happen to us? Where are we going? This is an emergency situation, like they had to take us out of there. So a teacher, Mrs. Anderson, said, I'll take them. And we went to her house that night. And here I am freaked out because I didn't know anybody other than my family at the time. Me and my brother Michael were there, and, she was just an emergency, whatever. And I was like, and I don't remember too. I know she was great. I know it was the first time in her life at that point that it felt calm. But again, it was temporary. So, they said we were there for not long, maybe a couple weeks before they found another foster home. So then they put us with this couple called the Ketchums in Kinnelon. And they were great. They were kind of a yuppie couple, but they were good to us. They treated us right, and they were okay as foster parents, but they were another temporary family. They were just getting into foster care, so they were kind of learning the ropes of being foster parents, if you will, learning the system. But they used to have us write in a diary every day or a journal every day, kind of like what's going on with us. So as their idea was, when we get older, we can look back at our life and realize where we came from to where we're going, because they always said that we were going to make something of ourselves, which was kind of contrary to what we always heard our whole life. Now, we're here. Now, all of a sudden, we have to go to our permanent foster home. And my brother, Mike, my brother was out of control, and they couldn't keep us together because they couldn't control him. So they had to separate us. I went to a family called the Fioris in Randolph. And these people were amazing. My brother went to a camp because they couldn't find a home that could help him. So he went to a summer camp until they could find a place for him to go. So my brother and I are now separated. My father, we didn't see my father this entire time. I don't know what's going on with my brother, but I'm off in this falls from here. And these people, they are rich. They got a gorgeous house. They own a waste management company. They own a restaurant called Fratelli's. I actually, at this point, had a good life. These people, let me tell you how good these people were. When you're in a foster home, the state gives you money for foster kids. They saved every dime that the state gave them. When I left their house, they gave it all back to me. So everything they bought me, the clothes, the food, birthday presents, everything they gave was out of their own pocket. That's how good those people were. And I was blessed and fortunate to be in that, because my brother, when they found him a foster home, he was abused by the people, and their son sexually molested him there. So he got it worse than I did. I had it pretty good in my foster home. I had a really great family I lived with. In fact, their son and I were friends up until I went in the Navy. So anyway, here I am. I'm really interested in spiritual things. I'm really interested in ghosts. I'm interested in like witchcraft. And I'm like, oh, does this stuff really work? I started my interest in these things really perked up. And, the day came when our foster care was over. And what happened was my mother and father were going to court, and my stepmother had convinced my mom, no, I love them. I'll treat them on my own and blah, 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 blah. And my mother, like an idiot, fell for it. She didn't have money. She didn't have a place to live. She was, in a mental institution. She was, drunk. I don't know if you remember she was drinking at this point or not anymore, but, the day came and we were going back to live with our father. And we didn't want to. Remember, the whole time of foster care, we never even saw the guy. He didn't come to visit us once. Now we're going to go live with him again after we were taken out of there? And all I remember is, the day before I was set to go back, I didn't want to leave. But my foster father, Alan, one of the best guys I've ever met in my life, my memories of him of those people are great. Sat me down and he said, we're always going to be your parents. If anything ever happens, you call us and we will come get you. Because, you are our son. We love you. And to me, that was, again, and as far as I know, these guys aren't even Christian. So, but I kept in contact with them up until I went in the Navy, of course. Their son we were really close. I consider him like a brother. So we went back to my father. We went back to, my stepmother's there. And I mean, it didn't take long at all. The abuse started almost immediately. It was at a point where 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, my stepmother came in and said, get out. If it wasn't school time, get out. We were locked in the house. We were not allowed in the house until dinner time. And our dinner time was Slim Fast watered down shakes and a Slim Fast meal. That was it. That's what we got. That's all we were allowed to eat all day. When we were at home, we were locked in our bedrooms. We were not allowed out. It was so bad that we had to pee in socks and hide it in the closet because we weren't allowed out of our bedroom. We literally would try to peek under the door to try to watch TV or something like that because we were locked in a room. But the abuse was insane. We weren't allowed to eat. We weren't allowed to drink. I had gotten an abscess tooth one time. She poured bleach down my throat, like made me sit there and put bleach down my mouth. I had poison ivy because I used to get it real bad. And my fingers, my hands would literally swell up. The bumps would literally have my hands like this. This woman tortured me. She would cut them open, razor blades, and stick my hand in a bowl of iodine and alcohol mixed together and hold them there as I screamed in pain. Then they would wrap up my hands in gauze so I couldn't use them anymore. Well, it was, whatever. And she was a nurse, by the way. She was a nurse who was fired for having sex with comatose patients, just so you know. But she tortured. It was worse than it was the first time with her. She tortured us. I started practicing witchcraft now. My biggest thing was learning to leave my body, like astral projection. And for those of you who don't know, yes, that stuff is very, very real. Because when you're being abused like that, you need to leave and go somewhere else because of how bad it is. And I'm telling you this, but I can't express to you the torture that we felt in that house. Literally tortured. Until we were, 15, 16 years old. This was our life. It was so bad. Like I said, she, my stepmother, would put us in, she had all her friends there one night. We were in her living room. And she had all these people sitting around. She put me and my brother in the middle. And she pulled in her pants and started doing stuff to us in a room full of people when we were kids. In front of everybody. And of course, we were trying to do whatever. And she would smack our hands. And she would tell us, hey, whatever. And threaten to hurt us even more. Punish even more if we didn't let her do that. And she said she was checking for poison ivy. Because apparently if you have it down there, you wouldn't know. Okay? And again, when you're in that moment, you learn to leave. Okay? And again, I'm paraphrasing here, of course, because for the interest of time, but my childhood was, torture. Literally torture. I was exposed to pornography from my own parents, my father and stepmother, pictures all around the house. I was exposed to alcohol at a young age, drinking, getting drunk at a young age. I was exposed to, I was beaten. I had bleach poured down my throat. I was sexually molested by my stepmother, my brother and I. We were put in foster home. And it got so bad one day, there was a hurricane in New Jersey, and she threw us out of the house, and it was so bad because we were little and we were real skinny that we were holding onto a tree for fear that we were going to blow away. It was summertime and she threw us out, and we were so thirsty. All the neighborhood people felt really bad for us. And I remember we went down the street here, and there was a house in the corner, and they had a pool. And they said, "You got come swimming." I was so thirsty, I literally jumped in the pool, started drinking the pool water. That's how I just swallowed, gulp, 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 drinking pool water. That's how thirsty I was. And after that, my brother and I decided we can't anymore. We went. My mom and my aunt, my grandparents, and my father all lived in the same town in Fairfield, New Jersey. And we went to my aunt's house because we were hungry. And my aunt, she was a pretty good cook. I'm not gonna lie. And my mother's side, not my father's side. My father's side family couldn't stand us anymore. They called us liars and sneaky because we put in foster home and my father looked bad or whatever. And we finally went to my aunt's house, and my aunt, she had cooked dinner for us, and we just wolfed it down. And then we went in her basement, and she called the cops, and it was Detective, starts with an M, Mangione, something like that. And he came to the house, and we were in the basement, and they told us stay down there, don't come upstairs. But of course, as a kid, you want to go see what's going on, so we did. And again, I'm not 5 years old anymore, but still. And I remember my father coming, and my father's a cop, right? And you guys all know how cops are to each other. This detective stood in front of my father and said, "No, you're done. You will never put your hands in these." Now, my father never put a hand on me. He just let my stepmother do it. And he said to my father, "You are not getting your hands on these kids again." So my aunt was awarded temporary custody of us at that point in time. And we lived with my aunt until my mom could get on her feet. Well, my mom finally got a house. It was a little hovel, but it's still a house nonetheless. And here is where things really started going crazy for me. So all this stuff led up to this point, and I actually bought myself, well, I shouldn't say I stole it from the bookstore, the Anarchist Cookbook. I had a copy of the Necronomicon. I must have had a whole library. Like I have library here at library of books on witchcraft and spell casting. And I was really into this stuff. And I really just started really becoming, I was outgoing, but reclusive at the same time when it came to who I was myself as a person. And I wanted to, I don't know what it was, but I started communicating or trying to communicate with ghosts. And, I actually went to the library, the public library, actually had a Ouija board there, and you could rent it. So we did it. My brother and I went to the park, and we were using the Ouija board. And, it freaked us out because the little thingy in the middle there moved by itself. Like, none of us were actually touching it. It wasn't like our hands were on it. And I was like, but again, I was fascinated by it. So I wanted to learn more about the Ouija board, studied all that stuff about it. I know that was a Milton Bradley product, but it goes much deeper than that. But I started getting, I was going, in school, I was known, I wore all black. I was known as the bad kid, even though I never really did anything bad, but because I didn't talk to myself much. People kind of knew we were abused as kids. My mom wasn't rich. She was poor. We pretty much, we were always grounded for something. My mother grounded my little brother for 9 months just for going on the porch one time. It was that bad. We were running the streets still with my mom. When we weren't grounded, we were running the streets. And it was so bad. I actually I had papers tagged on my wall with symbols and magic symbols, and I would trace them and try to do these things. And again, leave my body and project elsewhere. And do, this is what because I hated my life. I wanted to die, but I didn't want to kill myself, if that makes sense. So I became fascinated with death. And I became fascinated with the idea of not being in this, because I didn't want to be in this world anymore. But I also didn't want to kill myself, and I certainly didn't want to die a painful death. So I started started looking into necromancy. And, the day came, and I was in high school, and I used to wear a big silver upside down cross. And I'd gotten to a fight in high school. And, the guy hit me, and I literally just lost like this. And all I remember was going like this and coming across and bam, and hitting him and breaking his nose. Literally snapped his nose and then hit his glass of his face. And then I slipped on ice, and people used to laugh at us. They would make fun because they said we had long hair. We were headbanger, And they said we'd hit and then go like this and punch and go like this. But I wanted to kill him. And he ran away, and I chased after him. I'm screaming, I'm going to kill the MF. I'm going to kill him. Where is he? Where is he? And, you know, so I mean, I was full of anger. And, you know, I mean, all it took was the principal grabbing me and who you fighting? I went, no one. Because, you know, you don't rat, right? No matter what happens, you don't rat. At least that's a New Jersey thing. I don't know. So I was, you know, whatever. But I graduated, and I went to college at first. I studied criminology. And what changed my mind, what sounded about college you know, we had to do a paper on Martin Luther King Day. And the paper wasn't graded. It was just a matter of, hey, let me hear your opinions on it, you know, and what your thoughts are. And so I gave my thoughts, and I said, listen, I grew up in Fairfield, New Jersey. Okay, we didn't even get there for school. I understand what Martin Luther King did, but as far as me personally, it didn't affect me. You know, again, because I grew up in a white Italian neighborhood, and you know, she didn't like what I wrote, and I said, you told me to be honest. So I decided college was not for me. So my mom was hounding me because my mom wanted, you know, hey, you got to get a job and pay me rent. I said, what do I do? I'm 17 years old. I graduated. I said, what do you want me to do? I'm 17 years old. So, you know, it hounded me. So I decided, I got a card in the mail from the Navy. And I said, I'm not going to go in the military, because I never thought about the military before. And she's like, oh, why don't you just fill it out and see? I'm like, oh, all right, fine. I filled out the card, I mailed it back in, and kind of forgot about it. Well, then I get a phone call. My mom gets a phone call from the recruiter. Oh, actually, you know, back up. I forgot to tell you guys. During my teenage years, I drank a lot. My mom actually took me to my high school party. You used to let me drink and just take my keys away, because her mentality was, well, at least I know you're where you are. You're going to do it anyway. Let me drink, let me smoke. Knew I got high, and let me do it anyway. But anyway, so back to the Navy. So we're living in Fairfield, New Jersey here. And I mean, I painted my wall black. I got the big Metallica thing, because I was like, you know, Metallica was my favorite band at the time. You know, my mom's graduation present was I went to a Danzig Suicidal Tendencies and a Danzig concert, right? That was my graduation gift. But anyway, we got this recruiter, and he's like, oh, and I'm like, I don't want to be in the Navy. And he goes, oh, just come down and take the practice ASVAB, and let's see how you do. I said, okay, fine, whatever. Because I figured my mom would get off my back, whatever. So I went down there, and I took the practice ASVAB, and I waited a little bit, and you know, they gave me lunch, the recruiters, and they said, oh man, you scored, you know, whatever the practice was. I don't remember what the score was. And like, oh, you could be a nuke. I'm like, be a what? They said, you could be a nuke. I'm like, oh, what's that? What do you mean? And like, oh, you could be like a nuclear technician. I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds pretty cool. And like, yeah, you go down to Orlando, and that's where the school is. And I'm looking at his uniform. I said, what's that? He goes, oh, that's the two anchors. And I said, what is that? What's your job? He goes, I'm a boatswain's mate. I said, what's that? And it's basically undesignated. You have no real job. You're the guy in the boat that like scrubs the barnacles, does the painting, swab the deck, things like that. And I says, well, okay. And he goes, but the problem with the nuclear school is it's like a year, 2 years long, and it's a party school. And a lot of people drop out or they fail out of it because they party. And that's what happened to me. And once you do that, you're undesignated. I'm like, well, I don't want that to happen. I know me well enough to know that if I'm there, I'm gonna party. So I don't want to do that. So then he started telling me all these different jobs, and he says intelligence specialist, and I said, oh, but it sounds good when you hear intelligence specialist, but the job itself wasn't really intelligence. I don't know what the deal was with that. Then he started going to cryptologic technician stuff, and I said, crypto, what is that? And he started reading the jobs, and all of a sudden he goes to CTR. I said, CTR. He goes, yeah, basically you're a spy. I said, spy? I went, whoop, I could be a spy? Remember, the thoughts of James Bond in my head. He's like, not that kind. Basically, you're sitting, you intercept code, intercept signals, and then decode them. And you get a top secret clearance and all. I'm like, oh yeah, I want that job. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So I agreed to go to MEPS in Brooklyn, New York, or the Bronx it was, remember, and go take the actual ASVAB for real. I said, okay. So it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. Came pick me up. We drove to New York. I took the ASVAB, and I scored like 99 in the ASVAB. And that was in 1994 or 95, I believe. I can't remember. Because I wasn't 18 yet when I took the ASVAB. So I couldn't, I depped in for 6 months. But anyway, so I took it. I went to the counselors to tell you your jobs, and they knew, I kind of had the CTR already. So they said, yes, you scored high enough, because the ASVAB is a test that measures what job they think you can learn by your scores. It's math and all that kind of stuff there. So I says, yes, I want to be a CTR. they said, okay, so I signed up. Then you get a contract, literally a contract, 4 years. Yeah, I did all that. And you actually swear in at that moment. Now, I didn't go yet, but I swore in. I was actually going to go to boot camp in 6 months. I was depped in, they called it. So I said, okay. I go home and I'm like, man, I'm going in the Navy. All right, cool. So for the next 6 months, I mean, I partied a lot. I mean, I drank, of course, but I didn't do anything illegal to get in trouble. I was still practicing magic. I was still practicing witchcraft, things like that. And so for the next 6 months, I kept my nose clean, if you will. The day comes to go to boot camp. My mom, now remember, I'm not 21 yet. My mother takes me to a bar with all my friends as a goodbye thing and gets us drunk. All right. So now I'm going to boot camp. I never really got hangovers back then, but I was drunk the night before. And I don't know if those of you who have been in the military know your first night when they take you there, they drag it out all day. So by the time you get there, you're tired. It's all mental games. So we go to boot camp. I got long hair. I'm on the bus. And I know I'm filling you guys in, but I'm just trying to give you a background on who I was and the things that I experienced and, how I became what I became. Because, yeah, the torture as a kid is bad, but that's not the worst of my life yet. Boot camp, I was in boot camp, and I walked off the bus, and they started screaming away. I'm like, what? Screaming at us. I said, what did I just do? And the guy saw me and goes, you are first to get my haircut. Now, we didn't get a haircut that night, but I was the first one. He remembered me. The next day, we went to get a haircut. They shaved your head. I was first. And all I remember thinking was, what did I just do? Because they're screaming at us. They're yelling at us. And I'm like, man. So then they take us to this room. We have to fill out this psychological thing. We fill it out. We put our heads down. And, while I guess psychologists or counselors were looking at it to make sure you're fit mentally for duty. And I got my head like this. All of a sudden I get on my shoulder. I looked up. I said, yeah. He goes, can you come back here, please? I said, sure. He goes, you ever thought about killing yourself? I'm like, yeah. He goes, what? Do you want to kill yourself right now? I'm like, well, no. I said, I didn't say I wanted to kill myself. You just asked if I thought about it. He says, oh. I said, yeah. I said, you've never wondered what it would be like if you died, like who would be at your funeral and things like that? You never wondered about that? I said, if you would tell me you never thought about that, I'll call you a liar. He goes, yeah, you're fine. And he signed off, and that was it. So I go through boot camp. I go through the 8 weeks of boot camp. I graduate. I go to my A school down in Pensacola, Florida. I get, go through the rigor and boot camp. I go through the rigmarole of getting my security clearance. I had to go down and answer questions of my great grandfather because he was born in Lithuania. And I didn't remember him. They went to the DOD went to my neighbor's house asking about me, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I got approved. I got my top secret clearance. I'm in my A school because you had to have a clearance just to go to school there. So now I think I'm like hot stuff, right? I got the highest security clearance you can have in the U.S. government. I'm in a building where you need armed guard just to get into the gate, and then you have a nameplate with and you got to put up to this placard and the door. You got to put it there, and you got 3 seconds to open the door. It's called a skiff, and then boom, no windows. They got red lights going in there and they got radio playing in case anybody's trying to intercept what we're doing. I'm like, this is crazy, but I loved it, right? And, I wasn't doing drugs during this period of my time, but man, let me tell you something. We drank a lot. You think when I was a kid drinking, when I was in the Navy, we drank a lot. I mean, we drank a lot. So, I finished my A school. That's what they called it. I finished and I graduated at the top of my class. So I got to pick my duty station. Well, they say pick it, but you don't really. I picked 3. I picked Diego Garcia, Fort Huachuca, Arizona, and I forget the third one. Because as a CTR, you don't actually go on a ship a lot. And in the Navy, you don't go up in rank unless you go get sea time. So I picked Diego Garcia because it's isolated duty and it counts as double sea time. Well, anyway, they stuck me in Arizona, which is Morse code school, which I really didn't want to do, but whatever. So I go out to Arizona. And here's where things really started going bad because drinking age on base was 18 and we got Mexico right there. And we used to go to Mexico every weekend. And, I'm drinking on the weekends. I'm partying. I finished my C school, at least the first half of it because it's basic Morse. Then you got to go to the classified Morse code. So I finished the first part of Morse code school. And, and again, I'm really deep into witchcraft. This is the part you guys understand. I'm really deep into this. I'm doing Ouija board stuff. I'm practicing magic. I'm helping other people by practicing magic on them. And, you know, and again, I was still obsessed with the idea of dying because I had this philosophy that, you know, when you die or when there's a purpose for your life, when you fulfill that purpose, then you can leave this world and move on. So that's what I want to do because I did not want to be here anymore. I thought people were basically evil. I wanted no part of the human race. I said, I just want to be out of here, you know, and I was angry because I said, you know, I was a kid and look at my parents, that happened to me. I mean, I was literally, and I'm not even trying to exaggerate. I mean, I was literally tortured as a child. I mean, literally tortured. And like I said, there are pictures of welts and bruises across our backs and our stomachs. Okay, and there probably are legs too. I can't remember exactly every you know, because again, I learned to leave. So I remember getting the stick, I remember getting the belt, but the girl I dated at the time, when her sister looked at my file, which was completely illegal, by the way, because I was already 18, even told the girl, you might not want to go out with this guy because he's probably really screwed up because of all the things that happened to me as a kid. I mean, I was really bad what happened. And no amount of wording that I can do in this testimony here can illustrate the point of the hell that and it wasn't just me, my brother and I went through. We literally went through hell. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not joking. We were physically abused. I had bleach put down my throat. I mean, there were several times that if I didn't go to the hospital, I would have died. I had a condition called Rhineck that my stepmother's a nurse, just said, you know, whatever, go to bed. And my mother came and took me to the hospital, and they said if he went to sleep that night, he would have died. I mean, I mean, it doesn't bother me now. I mean, looking back, I look at it going, man, it really was hell. Like, I remember the fear that we had, the anxiety we had, just the idea of being in that house, and there was nothing we could do about it. The helplessness, the hopelessness, I mean, I can't even express to you how bad it was. Now I'm out of the house. I go through boot camp. Okay. I go through my A school. I graduate at a 98%, which, you know, the A school was one of the hardest A schools in the Navy. You can learn. It was one of the most technical jobs you can have. I go to my C school and all of a sudden it hits me. I mean, we're partying, we're drinking. And then one day, bam, I mean, it hit me. Everything hit me. I mean, I remember because I had the Ouija board up here and I was supposed to go to duty the one day. And I mean, all of a sudden I felt a weight just woof, and I had every memory of every single thing. It like hit me all at once, and all of a sudden I literally wanted to die in that moment. And I just sat there, almost catatonic. Nobody could find me all day because I wouldn't answer my door. I just sat there. Then finally at night, when they realized that I was in my barracks room, they took me to a psychologist, and he said, what's going on? And I went and talked to him. And I said, well, you know, I had a lot of memories hit me. All I said was this, when I was a kid, and he put me on Zoloft. And, you know, he was a lieutenant in the Navy. When a lieutenant tells you to do something, you do it, right, in the Navy. Let me back up. When I was in foster home, I went to see a doctor. His name was Doug Schaefer. He was a psychologist. And because you have to when you're in foster home. And he said that I wouldn't talk to me. I wouldn't talk. And he told my mom, like, oh, this kid's really smart, whatever. But anyway, he couldn't get whatever out of me. But this guy in the Navy gives me Zoloft and sleeping pills because I couldn't sleep either. I had trouble sleeping at night. I couldn't sleep. So he gave me a prescription Zoloft and a prescription for sleeping pills. And again, he says, take these. You're in the military. A lieutenant gives you an order. You follow the order, right? No questions asked. Done. So I take these pills about 2 weeks later, and I remember this as if it happened yesterday. I had my barracks mate. His name was Hank. And I remember I was watching some movie. It was a Civil War movie. That's all I remember. But it was about ghosts. And I remember it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't sleep. And I'm up, and I'm just anxious. And I just said, you know what? Tonight's the night. We're not going to be here anymore. I don't want to be here. I want to die. And I was watching this movie, and if any of you remember what it was, I don't remember, but all I remember was it was Civil War thing, and it was like ghosts in the field. That's all I remember. I took the entire bottle of Zoloft, and I took the entire bottle of sleeping pills. And I laid down on my rack, and I went to sleep. And that was it for me. I thought it was. So I was out for 13 hours. I woke up on my own, and I went to the smoke pit because we had this place called the Beer Garden where we were allowed to drink because drinking was 18. And then the other side, our barracks are here. One was the Beer Garden. You walk across the hall, and then you had the smoke pit where you're allowed to smoke cigarettes. So I went out there to smoke a cigarette. And my roommate, or barracks mate at the time, comes out with the empty bottle of pills, says, "Did you take these?" I said, "Yep, sure did." And I don't remember much after that. My only memory after that is being in the hospital. I don't know how I got there. I don't know if it was an ambulance or somebody took me there. But I literally have a blank slate from the time I was in that smoke pit to the time I went to the hospital. And I found out they were banging on my door all day. They were looking for me. They thought I went AWOL, but I was in my room sleeping because I had taken all those pills. Well, anyway, I'm in the hospital, and they gave me the charcoal to drink. And the doctor says, "You took those pills? You took both these bottles when?" And this is like maybe 14 and a half hours now that we're into. I woke up 13 hours by the time I got, whatever. And the doctor looked at me and said, "Somebody up there is really watching out for you." And you know what my response was? "I know, and I'd wish he'd leave me the F alone," is what I said in the hospital room. So I'm there for 3 or 4 days, and they decide, yeah, we're, my mother calls and says, "What do you think?" And I said, "What do you care?" And she's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "What do you care? You never cared about it." And I just went off my mom. I lost it. I said, "You never cared about us. You let my stepmother do what she did to me. You let these people torture me. You tried to kill me. You were drunk all the time. You slept with these people in front of us. You made us listen to it. You did this. You did that. You never cared." And I hung up the phone on her. Then they were sending me back to Pensacola because where I was in Arizona was a detachment. And I fought, man. I did not want to go back to Pensacola, Florida. I loved Arizona. I wanted to stay in Arizona. But it was so bad for me, I started carving my arm. I would literally take knives and I carved this image. And it's really funny because the image I carved, now that I didn't put this together at the time, this is before Disturbed came out as a band, but their mascot, Disturbed mascot, the guy with the eyes, that's the image I carved on my arm. That was before Disturbed even existed, but that's the character. I literally cut a knife, and you can't see now because it's covered with a tattoo, but I carved the figure into my arm. So I was now cutting myself. And anyway, as much as I fought, as much as I tried to not go, they ultimately sent me back to Corey Station in Pensacola, where I was there to get discharged. And I was in the working unit, because again, I was getting ready to get out, so there's no reason to put me through an A school. There's no reason to put me back in a CTR thing. And, basically my job was to go in the morning, we put the flag up, at the end, do work around the base, clean up the base, things like that. And then at night we would just go and put the flag down or whatever. And that was it until my discharge. But anyway, I knew I was getting out. I didn't do drugs yet, but I was drinking a lot. And then I started going to strip clubs a lot. Now, back in the day, I was a good-looking guy back then. I was fit. Remember, I was in the Navy, right? I was fit. When you're in uniform, women throw themselves at you. So we would go to strip clubs, and we'd go home with strippers. And, I'm like, hey, getting drunk, going here, doing that. Meanwhile, I'm still practicing witchcraft. I'm still casting spells. I'm learning. I'm actually communicating with what I thought were ghosts and spirits at the time. Now I know they were demons. But I'm communicating with them, like actual conversations back and forth. Now, at this point in time, I had never really seen anything fully yet, but we're getting there. But it was almost like a progression into the spiritual. So, I was talking to demons, didn't know they were demons at the time, and I'm getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And then finally, I meet this couple in Pensacola. And we started hanging out, and I went to their house. I was dating a stripper. I know, but I was dating a stripper. And we were all at their house. And all of a sudden, I just left who I was. 3 or 4 days. Didn't know who I was. Because all we did was drink and do the Ouija board. That's literally all we did. That was all we did. And this was really where things got crazy. So we're doing the Ouija board, and the girl I was dating, she was a stripper, and we're doing the Ouija board, and it started talking to us, and it said that the spirit said it was a wraith. Now, a wraith is not what you think it is in terms here. A wraith, when you're practicing witchcraft, a wraith was an unborn spirit. We believe that this was the unborn spirit of my kid. It was telling us it was my child's spirit. So we're like, okay, this is really cool. Then I started drinking blood. Again, nothing crazy. Like, it's not like I drank glasses of it, like some people say. And I'm going to tell you this. This was back then. This was back way before I was a Christian. And I say that because the guy, JT Olson, actually tried to tell people that I currently do it now. Literally used a part of my testimony from when I was wicked, when I was satanic, and tried to say that I was doing that stuff today. Literally lying about that part of my life because I had done it back then. So I want to make it quite clear that was then, okay? And it was one of those things where you get a cut, you drank the blood, things like that. And here's where the first time I saw something physical, like actually solid figure in front of me. So we're doing this Ouija board, and we're really into it. We spent days doing this, right? We were up with the candles around that. I mean, we were like, and my friend Ryan, he had in his bedroom this old, because he was in like old stuff. He had this old wicker mirror, and you could see the mirror in front of you, but there was nobody in front of it. Well, I looked, and there was this woman, at least it looked like a woman with black hair and a red dress, standing there. You could see the reflection, but she wasn't and looking at me. And I stood up, and something physically pushed me down. Physically touched me and pushed me to the ground. And I stood up again, and he was an artist. So he had like these pictures on his wall, and there was an eyeball on one of the pictures, a black and white eyeball. And something drew me to it, and it put me in like this trance. And then like 3 days later, I snapped out of it. I'm like, what happened? I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't been in base. I haven't been on base like 3 days. I'm going to be in trouble. So I call the base. I'm like, I don't know what happened. I literally blacked out for like 3 or 4 days. The psychologist says, okay, you're not going to go to the brig or anything like that. Just come in and we'll get you out today. Today's your discharge date. We're just going to get you out. We'll take off the 3 days off your leave time, and that's it. Just you're really messed up, and just come back and we'll go. So I did. I went down there, went to the psychologist's office. He evaluated me and said, you had a breakdown, whatever it was. I mean, we know, you and I know what it is, but they gave me a check because I actually never took leave when I was in the military. So I had all this money saved up, and I was discharged, and I didn't go back to New Jersey. I stayed in Florida. I'm out of the military now. Now I'm free. I can do whatever I want. So I started smoking pot. I mean, a lot. And we're doing witchcraft, and we're doing the blood stuff, and I'm dressed in all black, and next thing now I'm doing cocaine. I'm dropping acid like every day, and I was out of control. Out of control. I woke up getting high. I can't even tell you the level of depravity we lived. We had strippers literally in and out of my apartment 24/7. We had cocaine flowing like wine in my apartment. We had garbage bags full of pot in my house. We had kegs in my house. And all we had to eat was Chef Boyardee beefaroni. That's all we had in my apartment. That's it. I had a Papasan chair and a little TV and some VCRs. That DVR tape. That's it. And it was crazy. It was like the Wolf of Wall Street times 10, just not as long as he did it for. There's a couple of things I remember when I got high. Like, I remember one time I was counting the bumps in the ceiling. I remember seeing 3 people praying. I was high in a bush. I'm like, what? And coke, acid was my drug of choice, speedballs. I loved them at the time. And, I remember I was at a crack house, and, we were hitting bongs that were like 5 feet long, and I was getting shot at, and we had coke dealers come to my house, and they didn't come after me, but went after my friend Zach, and they pulled the gun. He's like, oh, why are you going to pull that rusty pistol? Like, really? It was really bad stuff, And, but I always had this guy, his name was Rodney. Now, because Zach's family were Christians. And, I used to say, oh, I'm a Christian. But again, what I knew about Christianity was you could be witches, you can do it, and still claim to be Christian, right? Because again, my grandfather's a Methodist, so I thought because he was, well, I guess I am too, right? But not really, because, whatever. But I just said it. So this guy, Rodney, I remember he used to come to my apartment all the time because the guy, Zach, was living with me. And I said, I would like, what do you want, man? Get out of here. And, my family wasn't talking anymore, which was fine with me at the time. My brother Brian would always call to check on me once in a while, make sure I was still alive. And, I was heading down a dark road and I was dating a girl who was a, goth at the time. And, this is where things really started going crazy because she was into the witchcraft stuff too. Marilyn Manson music, all that weird stuff. I didn't like Marilyn Manson music at the time. I always thought that was a little weird, but I was into heavy metal. And I mean, it was, anyway, and I can't really do the testimony justice because how much drugs we did and how the sex parties and, all these things here. But, I was still obsessed with this idea of dying. Like I really wanted to die, but again, I didn't want to go out painfully and I didn't want to kill myself. So what I remember was, and you guys are going to love it, and this is where things started changing a little bit. So again, I'm still deep into drugs and I'm dressed in all black and I got all this gold rings. I got gold chains, and my head is shaved. I'm dressed in all black. And, the reason I had all the gold was because a friend of mine had literally just went to a pawn shop, stole a gun, and shot someone point blank in the head. And I was actually selling the gold for him. So I wear it and I was selling it. Anyway, the guy survived. Praise God for that. He did survive, the pawn shop owner. But that's why I had all that stuff. But I'm laying in my bed. I'm laying in my bed with this girl. And I'm laying on my stomach and I'm looking at her and I said, man, what do I have to do? What is my purpose in this life? I want to do it so that I can just be done with it and leave this world. And I kid you not, I heard, not audibly, but I heard something say, go to Bible college. And I was like, what? And the girl I was with was like, what happened? I said, I think God just told me to go to Bible college. And she's like, what? I said, that's what it sounded like. Nah, that's not me. I said, yeah, right. I'm going to be the guy on the street corner yelling at people, repent. Right? This is back in the late 90s. I'm like, yeah, right. Like 95, 96, somewhere around there. And I'm like, yeah, right. Like, I'm going to be that guy. Like, oh, yeah, repent. I was actually mocking these guys. And I said, yeah, right. And I dismissed it completely. Dismissed it. So then this guy, that girl and I break up and I started dating strippers again and all that stuff. Then Zach moved in and this guy Anthony moved in and he was actually, he rode his bike for the X Games. And the witchcraft, we were Ouija board, the communicating with spirits, the astral projection. I mean, here I'm minimizing it, but this was my life every day. I shut down completely. I was a shell of a person. I had almost no emotion. I had no feelings for anyone or anything. I literally just got high and drank myself into a coma every day. That's it. And was, doing the sex stuff. But that was my life. That was it. Communicating with spirits, asking for power, this is what I did. And I influenced other people into this stuff too. So then the day came that I was supposed to go, and I was supposed to go to the club that night to watch the girl I was dating dance. And this memory is as vivid to me as anything else too. And I remember I was sitting on my couch, literally just like this. And I'm like, I just smoked a bowl, and I'm like this, and I'm just chill. And my friends Zach and Anthony come in the apartment, and the guy Anthony walks into my bedroom, and I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing? I said, where are you guys going to go? We're going to church. I said, I want to go. I said, what the heck? And the guy Zach was like, really? I said, yeah, I guess I do. And then and I'll tell you the backstory how they got to my house in a minute, but the girl I was dating got really mad. And she's like, you're supposed to come see me dance. I'm like, I know, but I need to go to church tonight. And all I'm thinking, I'm like, what is coming out of my mouth? Like, where is this coming from? I know, And she goes, to take a bath, and I go in the bathroom. I'm like, listen, I don't know what's going on, but I really feel like I have to do this. Like something is telling me I need to go to church tonight. I don't know why, but I feel like I have to go. And she's like, oh, you're going to change. I'm like, I'm not going to change. I've been to a church before. You stand up, sit down, hallelujah, walk out. That's it. And she's like, no. I'm like, whatever. I said, whatever. But I really feel like I have to do this. So we're in the car on our way to church, me, Zach, and Anthony. And my friend Zach, I'm like, how did you guys even come back to the house? And they told me, they're like, well, we were actually on our way to church. And Anthony said, I need to go check on my bike because it was in my apartment. And Zach was like, why? It's Rich's got it. It's fine. He goes, I don't know. I feel like it's something. I got to go check on it. I can't. I feel like something's wrong. I got to go check and make sure it's okay because that's how he made a living. That's how they wound up at the apartment. So I'm like, oh, that's weird. Okay. So we're going to church and my friend Zach's already set me up. He's like, listen. And this wasn't even church, but this is a prayer night. It was a Wednesday night. It was a prayer service at a charismatic church, mind you, okay? And all I ever knew was this little rinky-dink Methodist church my grandfather went to. That's all I ever knew was Christianity. So we're going there, and he's like, Rich, when you walk in, don't freak out. I'm not going to freak out, bro. I said, I've been to church before. He goes, not like this. I said, whatever, man. They're all the same. He goes, I'm telling you, just don't freak out. You've never seen like this before. I'm like, okay. And now remember, I'm dressed in all black. I got a black overcoat on. I got this big pot leaf, like all this stuff here. And all I remember is pulling into the parking lot. We put in a parking lot. To the left is a building, and in front of me is like big globe tent thing. I'm like, what the heck is this? And, I hear like them jamming in the parking lot. And I'm like, you guys tricked me. This isn't a church. Because they were practicing for praise and worship, right? And I'm like, there's no crosses, there's no religious icons anywhere in the at least that I could see. And I'm like, man, and I'm like, trust me. I said, okay. And we opened the door. We walked in, and everybody's sitting there. They're sitting in the chairs here, and they're up at the stage. And I noticed that they're wearing like jeans, and it shirt said Tommy Hellfighter, not Tommy Hilfiger, Tommy Hellfighter. And I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. It's kind of funny, but whatever. So all of a sudden, we found a seat, and I'm sitting in there. I'm on the left side. They got an aisle here. They got the chairs here, and then there's like little stage. It's not a huge stage, it's a little one. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just kind of looking around and going, this doesn't look like a church. It looks more like a, I don't know, like a meeting hall. It's got speakers, and they're wearing jeans and T-shirts. It was a prayer night. So, and all of a sudden, the pastor says, okay, everybody pray in tongues. I said, pray in what? And they all started doing it. I'm like, I'm out. I said, I don't know what's going on here. I'm out. And I stood up. I got to the aisle, and bam, I couldn't move. Like, I was stuck. And then the guy, Rodney, comes up, and he says, can I pray with you? And I says, I don't know. You gonna let me out of here if I let you? And he goes, yeah. I said, okay. So he grabs my hands, and he starts praying. Meanwhile, these people are doing this weird stuff I've never heard before. I've never seen this before. I'm kind of freaking out. Now I'm thinking they pumping like gas into this church because you always heard those stories. I'm thinking that there's gas going on here, but I'm like, I got to get the heck out of here. This is crazy. And he starts praying, and all of a sudden I felt like I wanted to cry, and I literally took my hands and I pulled them away. I said, get off me. I said, I don't know what she's doing in here. I don't know, whatever. I said, don't touch me. I said, I got to get out of here. I went to the door. I was just about to grab the door and open it, and my friend Zach goes, Rich! I said, what? He goes, Pastor wants to meet you. I said, no, man. I said, no, I am not meeting a pastor like this. I said, I was smoking pot before. I got all, no way. He's like, nah, man, he's cool. Pastor Chris is cool. I said, fine. We walk up on stage, and I hear him go, man, who smells like weed? I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to hell. That was my first thought, I'm going to hell, right? Out of all the things I've done in my life, it was a smell like weed that I thought in that moment was going to hell. Then his wife grabs me, and she starts crying. And I'm like, what did I do? And she's just bawling. And just, by the way, this is like a regular occurrence whenever after I got saved too, that she would like look at me and start crying. And I'm really uncomfortable because I'm not really good when people are like emotional on me. Like, I'm not really good with that stuff. So I'm like, what do I do? And she goes, if you died right now, where would you go, heaven or hell? And I went, and I wanted to say heaven, and I went, I don't know. And my friend Zach was like, oh, yeah, right. Whenever we ask him, oh, yeah, I'm going to heaven, there's a heaven. No, now all of a sudden he doesn't know. And I said, I don't know what's coming out of my mouth. Because I thought it, and I went to say it, but that's not what came out of my mouth. Then she goes, would you talk to Brother Lance? And all of a sudden, this dude, this like 6'5", huge, like linebacker looking dude comes up and she's like, will you sit down and talk with him? And I'm like, whatever he wants, whatever he wants. So they pull me off to the side. Him and I were just sitting there, and he starts talking about Jesus. And there's no other way to describe it, because again, we're in America. We've all heard the story of Jesus. I mean, that was my extent of Christianity. Jesus, Son of God, died on the cross, right? We all know that. God loves everybody, blah, 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 blah. That's the extent of my knowledge of Christianity. So he's talking to me, and it's weird to describe because I can't do it justice, but all of a sudden everything just kind of clicked, and you knew that everything about God and Jesus was real. And I try to look back, and I always try, and again, I know I've condensed this down a little bit because, it's already an hour and a half and I'm still going on. But I'm in there and I'm like, it's real. Like, that it's real, and it was, you're going to hell. You're living your life on your own terms, and you are going to die. You are in rebellion against God. You are going to spend an eternity in hell. All I heard was in my spirit, I've had close calls because, I actually, when I was doing drugs, I actually had taken so many Percocets one night. I took a whole bottle of Percocet. We went to Olive Garden to eat, and I'm sitting at the table, and all of a sudden everything started going like this and getting black, and I literally just snapped myself awake. And I'm sitting there, and I'm holding a fork and a knife, and I'm like, and I tell him, I'm like, we got to go. And I thought I was going to die. Then I started throwing up. My friend Anthony's like, oh, bro, you're wasting it. And I'm like, wasting it? I said, you think I can hold it in? But anyway, so I took all those bottles back in the Navy, didn't die. I took a bottle of Percocet, didn't die. And it just, I knew in that moment, it was you're going to go to hell. You're in rebellion against God. It was, and everything just became real. And he said to me, do you want to be saved? And I said, yes. And he stood me up, and of course he led the sinner's prayer, which we know at this time is, however, people do get saved from it. Again, it's more of a guideline that kind of leads you when you believe in Jesus. And he just simply said, hey, do you believe in Jesus Christ? And, the whole thing, the Son of God on the cross. And I said, I do. I do believe it. He goes, do you admit you're a sinner? And I said, yes. And I said, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I felt I don't want to do this anymore. So some of you are going to get and I'm sure my critics are going to get a laugh at this, but I really don't care because this is exactly how it happened. He put his hand on me and he said, Satan, I bind you. And I went 4 feet in the air, and I felt like somebody had punched me in the face. And I was like, oh, like I felt like I got knocked out, like, oh. And then he starts laughing. And then I start laughing. And now I'm like, what is so funny? I don't understand. I couldn't even, he has his hand on me. And he starts speaking, it sounded like Ugandan to me, I don't know. And I'm laughing. And all of a sudden, I felt like $1,000,000. And in my head, I'm thinking, I'm thinking, okay, they putting like goofy gas in here, but the pastor, they're talking just fine. Zach and Anthony are sitting in the chairs watching, and so it's only me and him laughing. And I don't understand this because I had never seen or experiencing this before, right? I didn't even know, I knew nothing. And all of a sudden, bam, I started saying this weird stuff out of my mouth. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm praying this weird language, and it was just gone. Literally, the desire for everything was gone. Instantly, it was gone. After it was over, I sat down in the chair, and I literally was sitting there like this. And I don't know what happened to me. All I know is that I no longer had the desire to do drugs anymore. I didn't want to sleep around. I didn't want to do it anymore. And I didn't understand it because and the pastor's wife actually gave my friend Zach $100 and said, take him out to dinner and please explain to him what just happened. So we go out to dinner. It was late at night. And we went to dinner and he's telling me what happened. He told me the Holy Ghost. I'm like, what? And then I remember back when I was a teenager, 17 years old, I was working at ShopRite. I was working in the produce section. There was a Haitian guy there. And he used to talk about Jesus a lot. And I always made fun of him for it. He was talking about raising people from the dead. I'm like, oh, did you raise elves from the dead too? I was mocking him. And then I remember back in my life, it was like a flashback where, we used to go to this laundromat on Mountain View Boulevard in Wayne. I don't think it's there anymore. And it was a laundromat. It was like a little strip mall. And then at the end was a pizzeria. And we went to get lunch as my mom was washing clothes and walking up. And somebody came up to me with a Bible track. And I look back in life and all of a sudden I started remembering all these different times. And it wasn't many, but it was a few of people that have tried to talk about Jesus that I had forgotten about. Rodney coming to my apartment door. The woman that back when I was a kid. All these things here. And then I started remembering how I didn't even want to come back to Pensacola, how I fought trying to get to Pensacola. Then I remembered how I didn't leave Pensacola. And then all of a sudden I'm like, man, God set me up. It's like he moved me into position for this moment. Now, again, I'm not saying the Calvinist or whatever, but because ultimately it came down to I had to make the decision. But I do believe that God did purpose for me to be there in that moment to get to, hey, this is your chance. You're either going to accept or not. And what I had found out was also that I had gotten saved at the right time because they were just getting wind of what was going on in my apartment, and the police and that were starting to set up a sting to watch what was going on because we had a lot of drugs flowing in and out of there. And I had gotten saved and stopped. Yeah, this is what the maintenance guy told me afterwards, because after I'd gotten saved, I had moved out of that apartment, and one of the elders of the church, God had told them to let me live with them. They didn't know who I was. They just know that, hey, this guy's like a drug. What are you? I'm not, what? But God said, nope, you need to get him out of there and let him live with you. And they did. But anyway, so after it's all over, I'm feeling great. I go home. I took all my drug stuff, and remember, when you're a drug addict, by the way, you get pretty creative with things. I mean, we were making bongs out of gerbil water bottles. I took everything I had, all the drugs I had left over, all the paraphernalia. I put them in a briefcase, spun the tumblers, went outside, and threw it in the dumpster. And I have not touched a drug since that night. Now, the girl I was dating, stripper, came home, and she goes, hey. and I said, you're never going to escape what happened. She goes, oh, no. Apparently, this is a normal thing down in Pensacola, Florida. I said, I don't want to live the way we're living anymore. And she went, oh, no, I can't do this. And she put my jacket, the overcoat jacket on, because it was on the chair. She put the jacket on, and she threw it off and said it burned her. She said the jacket I was wearing when I got saved and filled with the Holy Ghost, she said it burned her. And she walked into my apartment. And at that point on, I really purposed in my heart. I said, I don't want to live this way anymore. So now I'm in this apartment here, and I'm going to church now, and I'm struggling with cigarettes, and I was so mad because I'm like, look, I just quit coke. I stopped doing acid. I was, all this stuff, and yet I'm still smoking cigarettes. What's wrong? And I started to beat myself up about it. Granted, it's only 2 weeks into my salvation, whatever, but, So then they had, I think it was a New Year's Eve, party at the church. It was just, a fellowship, a gathering, whatever. And I went, and, I actually walked outside, walked by, because I didn't want kids to see me smoking. I actually had a conscience now, I walked into the woods by the church, smoking a cigarette. I came back, and I'm walking in the church, and all of a sudden, the room was filled with smoke. I thought somebody lit a firework or something like that. And I'm like, you guys, what's going on? I thought somebody was smoking. Something. Smoke machine, because again, it's charismatic church, whatever. I thought, I've seen TV, the preacher with the flash, whatever. I thought that's what it was. I said, who's lighting up fireworks in here? What's smoking in here? What's going on? And then I'm seeing people laughing and falling down. I'm like, what? And I'm like, what is this crazy stuff going on here? And the room was so full of smoke, but it wasn't irritating. I could walk in it and it wasn't bothering me. And there was a guy, Kelly. It was the woman, Jackie, and her husband's son. These are the people that I wound up living with eventually. And I said, man, it is smoke in here. And he's like, and nobody else could see it but me. He's like, man. I said, what? He goes, I haven't waited my whole life to see it, and you see it, and you've been saved for like 2 weeks. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, you see the glory cloud, the Holy Spirit. I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh, okay. Because nobody else saw it but me. And, okay, whatever. So then I move out of my apartment. I move in with this woman, Jackie, and it was really weird for me, but they had a whole bedroom, and she said God had said to let you stay here, that opened my home to you to get you out of that environment. And I did. And that's when the maintenance guy, because he was going to church too, apparently, and he had said, you're lucky because they were just starting to watch you. Because now remember, I know that gold, I took it and threw it away. I wanted nothing to do with it. And got, I mean, I literally put all that stuff behind me. I did talk to a couple of the guys I party with, and I said, listen, you guys, because they had seen the change in me, and they were like, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. They'd recognized it, but they said they weren't ready yet. But other than that, I left the whole thing behind. The strippers, everything. I left it all behind. And I'm going to church now, and I never had a Bible before. You know, I'm going to church, and you know they're talking about Bible school, and I said I really like to go to Bible college. And I don't have any money. You know, I just got out of drugs. I don't even have a place to live with these people. You know, I don't know what to do. So the woman Deborah, I remember her and her husband, Deborah and Aria, and they had a daughter, Brandy. And she was in charge of the Bible college. They had a Bible college there. So the pastor's wife, Robin, you know, she one day at church, we're sitting there, and I'm just kind of talking. And remember, I'm not doing drugs. I mean, I look different at this time here. I'm dressing normal. No more black clothing. No more gold. None of it. I mean, I look like a normal human being. You know, and I have a couple pictures. I went from this is me. Okay, and this is what it looked like when I graduated boot camp. That's the pastor and his wife, okay? That's me. Okay, at 20 years old, that's me. I went from this guy to this guy. This is my Bible college graduation here. And then when you see the one behind me there, that's Deborah. That's the one I was just telling you about. And you see Robin's crying. She always cried whenever she saw me. Whenever she looked at me, she always cried. So that's my Bible school grad. But anyway, so I'm you know, again, I'm cleaned up. I'm looking normal. I'm looking like a human being again, you know, and I'm still pretty fit because, you know, whatever. I mean, I didn't eat much or anything. I was always on speed. So I was doing something. But you know, so I want to go to Bible college, and all of a sudden the pastor wife grabs me and she says, I'm going to give you a scholarship. I said, what? And she went to the woman, Deborah, and she says, give him a scholarship. Now I was already behind. So I had to make up all the work and the stuff that I had to do prior to from the time I started. And what I had to do is I had to take their tapes and listen to their sermon, listen to all the lessons of the school, and I had to write an essay in each and every one to catch up. And I did it. And then I had to go and teach I had to go sit in classes, and the kids that came with the parents at night, part of the school was to learn how to prepare. You know, I had to prepare like lessons and how I was going to teach it. So I had to do all of that to catch up, and I did. I had to memorize things, scripture. I mean, but I did it. And, you know, I got a job working as a camp counselor at the YMCA, and this is my first time that I ever got to minister. So, you know, the camp counselors were all my age, you know, early 20s, whatever. And these guys always want to party, the lifeguards and stuff like that. And I remember this girl, Laura, and her and I would talk a lot. But at the time, I wasn't interested in dating yet. I was worried about myself. I had just gotten cleaned up. I wasn't really worried about that kind of stuff. And I was afraid that if I dated, I would fall back into sexual sin. I didn't want to do that. But she wanted to go out with me anyway. But so the camp counselors would always because I wouldn't go out partying with them anymore. I wouldn't do that. They used to call me Bible Thumper. I'm like, that's really weird. I went from this to now I'm called Bible Thumper. And I barely even know what the Bible says yet. And she actually stuck up and she's like, you guys can say what you want about him, but you have no idea what he was like before this. What you see now is not who he was. He put all you guys to shame. And I was like, she's not even a Christian. What was that about? Anyway, she just did that because she liked me. But it was one of the kids there. And I wish I still had the card. My brother's ex-wife threw it away. I got a card. I got a card from a kid's mother. And it's the first time that I ever felt like I had positively impacted somebody. And the card had said, listen, I want to thank you. And I didn't really do anything yet, right? I didn't know much. All I knew was what Jesus did for me and how I want to live my life. That's pretty much all I knew at this point. And of course I learned there, but again, everything in the Bible college there was more about the spiritual things and, you know, that kind of stuff. But anyway, you know, I would talk to the kids about it. Like we had to give, like, when it's time to read, you know, for our story, whatever, I picked stories of the Bible. And this mother wrote me a card and said, I want to thank you because my son is looking up to you now. My son, you know, wants to be like you. And he said he wants to know about God and he wants to know about Jesus. And that was the first time I ever really felt that I, you know, made a difference in somebody's life. And then, you know, after that, I was going to church. I mean, I lived, eat, and breathe. I mean, I was there I was there every day. School was 3 or 4 days a week. And then you had to, you know, volunteer at the church, you had to help the church. We went on, you know, door knocking. We did all, I mean, I was there. If church was going on, I was there. You know, I did 2 years I did 2 or 3 years in 1 year. Okay. I got it down. So, you know, and I thought I was a spiritual giant, right? I'm like, I'm ready to go out there. And I thought I knew it all, right? And my brother, I kind of wanted to reconcile my family at this point. Because again, I was taught you have to forgive no matter what, blah, 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 whatever. But I was still having a lot of anger. I just didn't know it yet. So my brother Michael he's in the Navy now. He's stationed in Mississippi because he said he wanted to be close to where I was, and the military accommodated him. He was a CB. He worked for the Seabees as a mess person, whatever. I forget what they call it in the Navy. And he was in Gulfport, Mississippi. So I was going to see my brother for the first time in years. So he came down to Pensacola and picked me up, and I went back with him to hang out. And man, it was so great seeing him. You know, we hugged each other. You know, because I loved my brother. And again, I was talking. You know, the first thing he said was, "Hey, can you buy me boons?" I said, "Buy you what?" He says, "Oh, I had just turned 21." He's like, "Oh, can you buy me boons? You're 21 now." I said, "No, I'm not going to do that. Boons is like a ghetto alcohol wine or something like that." So anyway, I go back to Mississippi with him because I want to spend the weekend with him. And remember, I thought I was, you know, bam. And you know, I'm there, and I go to his buddy's house, who's in the Marines. It was him. There was a girl in the Army, and some dude's wife, her kid, me, and my brother. And we're in this apartment, and I'm just sitting there, you know, because again, I don't know these people. And, you know, the girl, Shelly, she goes, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" I said, "Yeah, I guess." I thought you wanted to talk to my brother. She took me upstairs room and I slept with her. I'm like, how'd this happen? I had fallen into sexual sin. I'm like, how did this happen? And that's because I thought I was ready. I thought I was, you know, again, I thought I was impenetrable. I thought nothing could ever touch me. I was wrong. So I felt, and I beat myself up pretty hard about that. But, you know, ultimately I did backslide for a while. And again, I never did drugs again, things like that. I didn't drink, you know, I did wind up drinking again later on, but more just partying, stuff like that. And that's it. But, you know, it didn't matter though. I thought that, you know, hey, I got saved, so I'm good. I'm no matter what I do, I can't be unsaved. That's what I thought, you know? So, I mean, again, never did drugs again. Praise God for that. But I did party again. I was sleeping around again. You know, I mean, you know, I was living a normal 20-year-old life, if you will, 21, 22-year-old life after that. Just partying on the weekends, going to bars, listening to bands, hooking up with girls at the bar. And, you know, in retrospect, you know, looking back now, what I know now, I'm like, I would have went to hell. I literally would have went to hell in that time of life. And I thought I was saved because I thought I said that prayer and no matter what, I was good. But if I had died during that period, even though I'd gotten saved and delivered way back then, I would go to hell. You know, and I met my first wife and I knew I shouldn't have married her. I knew it. And I ignored it because I didn't want to be weekend father. She was pregnant with my daughter. And I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to be weekend father. So I married her. I mean, even at the way they were married, I told my brother, I'm like, I don't want to do this. Anyway, that was a disaster. That actually made things worse because I hated life again, all over again. She was just, you know, whatever. You guys all know that story. sleeping with everybody and their brother, and when women didn't matter, beating, just neglecting the kids and whatever. So I was actually the guy that literally at that point was talking people out of getting married. I literally hated the concept of marriage. Hated it. Because of her. Well, some of it, I mean, I guess I had a higher expectation of marriage because my only issue, my issue of marriage was I was determined not to be like my parents. And, I had this idea of marriage. I was taught in Bible school, marriage is this, that when you marry somebody, it's going to be blissful and it's going to be this, it's going to do that, all this other stuff. And that's not the way it was, like at all. So, it was just terrible. It was horrible. And, when we find, and I went to marriage counseling, I did all of that. And cause I thought I had no choice. I thought I had to stay with her. I had no choice. That was it. And it was the elders of the church after everything was said and done. And, we went and we're doing all this stuff. And I'm like, the elder of the church, because look, we weren't sleeping in the same bed anymore. It was that bad. And this is what the elder of the church told me. They said, your kids are going to grow up thinking that this is how married people behave. This is going to be your kid's idea of what marriage is. And I was like, you're right. I didn't want that. But I said, I don't want to do this again, ever. This is not, no. And my idea was, you know what, we're going to get divorced. I got my girls. And I'll just do me, and just, I'm not going to bring that stuff around the kids. I'll just go out and do what I got to do for me. I'll go and just kind of, my thought process was, sleep with anything that moves, and that was what I thought. That was my plan. And then I met Amanda, and Amanda screwed up my plans. And here's where and again, I'm not a mushy guy, but I'm going to get mushy for a second. Because before Amanda, I can honestly say 150%, I have never loved another human being before. Well, adult, I mean, I love my kids, but I never felt love towards another person until I met her. I dated a lot of girls. I did a lot of things, but I never loved them. I didn't care. Like, I honestly just didn't care. We broke up. Okay, whatever. I got somebody else waiting in the wing, whatever. Did not care. And it wasn't until her. And when I met her, because her family was Christian. And her and I, we went on a, my ex and I had split up. And, her and I we started dating. And again, we were talking more than anything else, whatever. And things started changing again. And, I fell in love with her, and I knew that that's who I wanted to marry, which is weird because everybody that knew me swore. A lot of people say they're not get married again. We know Rich, and trust me, he's not going to get married again after that atrocity. See, the people that actually know my situation know how bad it was. Not the Pharisees that like to speculate on things. It was bad. But again, this is the God's honest truth. If I was married to any other woman besides Amanda, I would not be doing what I do today. Because most of you, I don't know how many of you know the story of how this came to be. This was not something I planned. I was a recruiter. I was a salesman, then I moved up in recruiting. I was very successful at both. Okay. I was a loan officer at America's Mortgage Company. I was number 9 out of 4,000 of all the reps. Okay. That's how good I was at sales. I made a lot of money. Okay. I went in recruiting, and all of a sudden I got a reputation in the Northeast as the best recruiter. If you have a job that's hard to fill and you need good candidates for it, I was the guy they called to do contracts for that. And I literally worked all over New York and the northern New Jersey area for companies in New York, New Jersey, all that stuff. Pharmaceutical companies, I worked at Mars Chocolate, and I was very successful at it. I had a good reputation. My kids loved it when I worked at Mars because I would get like free candy. And I'd bring it home for the kids, and the kids would be like, "Oh, my daddy works at the candy factory." But I was very successful. So this whole ministry stuff was not in my plan. Then I got hit by a car, and things changed. I got hurt really bad. I had to have surgery on my neck. I had one here, on my elbow, and my shoulder. And I was down and out for a while. It was even walking was tough after I had the second surgery on my back, because what happened was I had surgery on my neck. They did a fusion. Like my disc literally exploded in my neck. So they did it. They cut to the front and they did this thing, whatever. But I didn't fuse. I was one of the 5% of people that did not fuse. So I had what's called, they created like an artificial joint in my neck. So they put the cage here, but I had no disc anymore. So when you look at it, it's like fused in the front, and the back it's like this, and there was no disc. So it was kind of just doing one of these thingies, right? And I was in so much pain that the doctor put me on Lyrica thinking it was nerve damage. I'm like, I don't want to take drugs, because I was like the biggest anti-drug in the world at that point. But I was in so much pain, I took the Lyrica, it didn't help. They wanted to put me on like medical marijuana. I said no to that. I got kids. I'm not smoking that stuff around my kids. And finally I went to another doctor to get a second opinion, and he did an X-ray and an MRI and says, "You're not fused." I said, "What?" I didn't even know there was a possibility. He says, "Yeah, do you smoke?" I'm like, "No, I didn't smoke in a long time." He's like, "Are you diabetic?" I'm like, "No." He was like, "Oh, I guess you're one of the lucky 5%. I said, "Oh." So I had what's called a rescission done. And they had to go to the back. And he said, that's the only way you're going to get, otherwise you're going to whatever. But you go to the back, they don't do that anymore because you're never the same after that. I said, but I can't live like this anymore. So he did. And he went, and what happened was I went so long without anything there that as the disc was moving, it like worked out the muscles in my shoulder and my neck, right? Like back here. So the muscle tissue is really built up back here. So when I went under to get the surgery, and the scar is literally, let me see. The scar is this big, okay? You see this on my elbow here? It literally have this on the back of my neck. That's what it looks like back here. So I go under, and I'm under for 5 hours. And Amanda's out there waiting, finding what's going on. And I come, because I'm asleep, I come out of the operating room, and I guess I didn't realize Amanda was there, but all the nurses, they walked by and said, "Man, that was a really effed up surgery," right in front of her too. And she's like, what do you mean? What happened? So then I guess they explained to her that there was so much muscle tissue built up there that even a scalpel, I guess, cutting through muscle, it's not like you see on TV, it doesn't just go whoop. Took them a little while to get through all that, to get to the disc, and ultimately they did anyway, but that's what took so long. So I'd have a special chair just to be able to get up. And I mean, you think your neck, you'd be surprised at how much you need your neck just to walk. It was really difficult even just to walk with this. And again, I'm not even a painkiller guy. I don't like taking pain medicine. The doctor gave me Percocet and I think Valium. And I said, I don't want it. I'd rather do the pain. He said, "No, you're going to want this." I said, "No, I don't want it." But because that's how anti-drug I was at the time. I literally didn't want to put anything in my body like that. But anyway, I wound up taking it for like 3 or 4 days because the pain was that bad. And then I had, my labrum was torn, and I had something, I had to go in there, the two bones that are like in here, I guess, because you kind of have that, one here like this, or wherever it was, and your shoulder. So the bone was on bone, so I would go like this, and it would just pop. And it was so painful. So I had to have surgery here. I had my labrum tacked up again, and they had to go in and literally shave, I think about 1.5 to 2 inches, whatever it was, in the bone in here to get that working again. So then I had my shoulder up like this for a while, right? And then I had this surgery because I had all my ulnar was damaged. So it was so damaged that my fingers were going numb when so they had to go and kind of move it out of position, put it somewhere else. So I was banged up for a while there. And so I said, you know what? I got time now to start, I guess, whatever. So Amanda and I were sitting in our house, and we were watching, I guess, the progression of like same-sex marriage or whatever it was. It wasn't legal yet, but we were kind of seeing the trend. And all, back in we started the page, our very first page was called I support traditional marriage, but I didn't do much with it. You know, we just put it up there. I put a cover photo, but this was back in the early days, right? Back in 2012, I think it was. And that's what it was, right? And we just a couple posts here and there, nothing major. Well, then I started spending a little more time. We'd post randomly, but the page started growing. 500, 600, 1,000. I'm like, oh. But then it got to the point where I'm like, you know what? I want to keep this going, but I can't do it myself. You know, I got, you know, whatever. So I brought this guy, Alex, I said, can you help me mod the page? And he said, yes. So all of a sudden now we started getting some attention on us because we were speaking out against the LGBT stuff, but we were also speaking out against abortion, and we were actually getting a lot of atheists that were challenging us. We had Satanists, and some of you might remember the pages like, you know, Jesus should have been aborted and all that, God killer and all that. And we started going at it with these, and they had the American Taliban page, and this is where we got our taste of how we can actually get this stuff shut down, because we got that woman almost fired from her job. We found out she was a nurse who hated Christians. So anyway, we started growing, and we were at a couple thousand, and again, we started getting some attention from other pages and other Christian ministries and groups and whatnot. We were actually converting atheists, or, you know, even if we didn't convert them, they were starting to understand and see where we're coming from, saying, I don't really see what these guys are saying that's wrong here. So then you guys might remember we did the cross overlay, right? We took your profile picture on Facebook and we would overlay like a red cross, like a red for the blood of Christ with the cross. And then we would give it back to him. Man and I would do that, and that got really popular. We got a lot of people that were sending us that. We did that. Then we got, 20,000. Then we started taking more admins on. And then, somebody said, Rich, you're not just dealing with same-sex marriage at this point. You're doing atheists. You're dealing with a lot of atheists. You're dealing with Satanists and abortion. You ever think about changing the name to be more, whatever? I said, I didn't till now. So then we were talking. It was me and my brother Brian and this guy Will and my wife and Alex, and we're like, what should we call this? We got to come with a good name, a good page name. And my brother said, Warriors for Christ. I said, it was stupid. So I was like, you know what? I don't know. So I looked up the definition of the word warrior. I said, yep, that's us. And Warriors for Christ was born. They had somebody do the logo for us. We had, other admins and stuff that started making memes for us and with us. And then we started, getting attention from political groups and from, nonprofits like AFA and things. And, we just started growing and growing. We, 50,000. Then it became a game. We're like, 50,000. Then we were like 70,000, 80,000, 100,000, and 150,000. Then we hit 200,000. I'm like, man, this is crazy. I got 200,000. And again, I'm not even doing anything yet. I'm just preaching on Facebook, right? Where I didn't really do YouTube yet. I was focused on the Facebook stuff. We had several pages. We had a youth page. We had this page, and we were preaching, we were teaching, we were making memes, and we were putting posts. We were debating people. It was actually a lot of fun. And then 2017 came around, and some of you might remember Facebook had that little rainbow emoji instead of the thumbs up or the like button. They did a little rainbow thingy, okay? And they replaced the like button. So we made a post, and again, I didn't think nothing of it at the time, and I said, if you post that rainbow emoji on our page, we're going to ban you. Because again, it's a Christian page. We're not there to support perversion. And man, let me tell you something. I never realized how truly evil those people were until we did that. Just a stupid like button had gotten so much negative attention. The Friendly Atheist did his article about us. And we were bombarded with, go kill yourself. You should drink bleach. I hope you die. I mean, we had feces sent to our house. We had it was so, I'm like, whoa, over that? So what we did was we started screenshotting. The comments, and then we would share them back to Facebook, okay? And we started exposing these people for who they really were. We were one of the first ones to start doing that. Well, then I guess word spread around of what was happening. That all these LGBT trolls were coming on. They were literally saying you should die. They were putting our address out there. We had a pedophile show up at my house. Again, because that was my fault because I left my address on the page there. We had people threatening to put bullets in my head. It was pretty crazy over that. And we literally banned everybody that did it, just like we said we were. But anyway, Christian Post had seen what they were saying about us. We put the stuff back, and that was my very first time in media. And because of that, now other people started seeing, well, these guys stood up for LGBT, whatever. And that's when the censorship started. Then all of a sudden, Facebook started hammering us down. I was getting censored for, I would share pictures of we trademarked our logo. Now, again, I've heard my slanders say, oh, he trademarked his logo because, whatever. They don't even know why we trademarked it. And trademarking something isn't illegal, by the way. No matter how much they want to try and make it to 501c3 thing, it wasn't. Here's why. You ready for this? I'm going to tell you why we trademarked the name. We trademarked it because gay groups were trying to use the name Warriors for Christ for their gay groups. They were saying gay Warriors for Christ. They were trying to use our logo, make it a rainbow thing. So we trademarked it so they couldn't do that. That's it. That's it. That's why we trademarked the name and the logo. Because of that. No conspiracies there. No fight, nothing else. That's it. So again, but people make assumptions about things and they just spew out of their mouth when they don't know what they're talking about. So we did that, and pages that did try it, we were literally able to shut them down. Shut them down because of that trademark infringement. Well, anyway, it was so bad. And again, it's because of them. Remember that anybody at that point knew who I was outside of Facebook world, right? Christian Post, then AFA did their article, and then all these Christian publications. I was on the radio in West Virginia. So I started getting a lot. I'm like, this is a little nutty. And, it was so bad that, so the next year came around, 2008, even George Takai. George, if you go on, Kim Coulter's article, she shared the screenshot of George Takai saying, oh, but Warriors for Christ. So I mean, it was pretty crazy. And we had admins on the page literally 24/7 from other countries. Somebody was awake all the time, banning, because it kind of became like a game at that point. We wanted to ban them all, just like we said. And they took it as a game too. Let's just keep spamming it. And we banned them all, everyone. We literally wiped the page clean of all the rainbow stuff. And we said, all the homos are here, so let's take advantage of that by, we set up every hour on the hour to post scripture, pictures with Bible verses, pictures, and, about the Holy Spirit and things like that. So we set up this to literally every hour on the hour, just bam, 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 post automatically where we were dealing with the trolls. So, And then even the gay group said, well, these guys are pretty quick on the trigger on that stuff. So it kind of became a little back and forth there. But anyway, when it was over, when the heat died down and everything else, that's, Facebook, I actually got my own liaison at that time with Facebook. Her name was Lori something. And Neil Potts was on the phone with me. He's the policy director. So him and Steve Jordahl, we were talking to him, and we went at it. And then we actually found out there was a guy, and he's still stalking to this day. But he had said that, we know who it is. Just give me the URL and the link. That's all. Ignore them, you guys. Listen, ignore, please. I know we say this all the time, but you have to ignore. Trust me on this. You have to ignore them. They're going to make all the video. Let them make the video. We'll take care of it. Just ignore them, please. As much as you want to go at them and rebuke them, just ignore. Just if you can, get the channel URL and the name of it and send it to me. That's all I need to do, and then just block them after that. Let them, just keep letting them make their videos. Let them make their posts. Nobody cares. It's been 3 years and nobody cares except for the little cult groups. Nobody cares. Anyway, so, the next year comes around, and about April, I went to Facebook and I said, you guys going to do that emoji thing again? They said, no. I said, why not? And they go, because it caused too much trouble and all this stuff with us, and the death threats and the media now. I said, are you telling me that a Christian Facebook page shut down the rainbow emoji on Facebook? Yeah, pretty much. And I was like, wow, praise God. You want to talk about God working through a ministry? Facebook, we got them to stop using the rainbow thing just by exposing the evil of those people and the controversy that ensued from it. I was like, wow. No, and you haven't had it since. Well, then we started going at him with censorship. And Pamela Geller, who's a social liberal, but she's a fiscal conservative, right? Whatever. But even she, I still talk to her. Even she took notice and wrote articles about it, about the censorship. We were one of the first Christian ministries that were really getting hammered on social media because, and again, all we did was, I would share articles from like the CDC. I would share articles from, college websites that with stats and figures, and they would ban me for that. I would share articles from Fox News, and they would ban me for that. I got banned for sharing I got banned for sharing my own legally trademarked logo. That's how bad it was. I posted a video called Jihad by Breeding. And it was just talking about how, Muslims can come here and take over country without even having to cause any violence. They can outbreed us. And they took that down thinking that it was support for ISIS. That's what Neil Potts told me that they thought. So we started, again, and I, of course, I can't say, oh, it's all art, because it's not, but we were one of the first Christian ministries that started being out in public and being in the news for the censorship. And then Brielle was in high school in West Virginia, and this one completely launched Words for Christ, to where most people knew we were kind of a household name, if you will, amongst the enemy, at least at that point. And, the school had asked her, given her assignment to write the Shahada in Arabic. Yeah. So Brielle came home with it and she said, I don't want to do this. She knew it was wrong. And I said, let me see this. So we started investigating, and the Muslim packet for the Muslim faith, they went to intricate detail about, walking around the temple and, or the mosque, whatever. The layout of the mosque. They went into great detail with their packet on Islam, but it was like a 2-page thing on Judaism and Christianity. That's it. So I said, I called the school. I'm like, you're asking my daughter about this. I said, you know what the Shahada is? And for those of you who don't know, the Shahada is basically saying that Allah is God and that Muhammad is his messenger. If you say that phrase, you are a Muslim, period. Whether you believe it or not, you're a Muslim. And if you apostatize, the penalty is death. And people don't realize that that's how crazy they are with that stuff. So Brielle wrote instead, no thanks, I'm not a terrorist. And we handed it back to the school. Anyway, man, a lot of people got upset about that because I called the school and the principal was like, oh, it's a calligraphy assignment. I said, sir, Arabic is not calligraphy, and lying about it doesn't make it any better. And he's like, oh, whatever. I said, you're an educator. He's like, well, not everybody knows the difference between calligraphy and Arabic writing. I said, but you're an educator. Don't you think you should know the difference? I'm not an educator. I said, you have no business teaching Christianity. That's my job. Your job is to teach science and math and arithmetic, things like that. Your faith issues, that's not up to you. I don't want your teachers teaching religion to my children. Teachers are not qualified to teach any religion. And, the Republicans in West Virginia, I remember they got so, they came to my house, they took me to breakfast. And they were like, oh, we knew this was happening. I said, you knew this happened, did nothing? Well, we were waiting for a parent to stand up for it. And, Marshall Wilson got involved, and he's like, oh, I'm going to do a white paper on this. And, and every time there was a news thing, I always brought him in and said, hey, come do this interview with me, because I don't want to do, show this. Let's expose this. Let's show where this goes. And he did his work, whatever, and he got to the point where he traced it back to the Muslim Brotherhood. Then he stopped. And I called him out on it. And he's like, oh, well, it was your fault. I said, my fault? He goes, well, yeah, you were talking to the media about this and da-da-da-da, and you posted about it. They did a documentary on you about it. I'm like, so what? So the guy who wrote the news article that did documentary went to Marshall Wilson and said, what does him talking about it with anybody have anything to do with your ability as a legislator to make a law to stop this in schools? And you were on almost every interview with him. But even if he ran up and down the street in his underwear screaming Allah is whatever, how does that impact your ability to legislate? And he had no answer. And he lost his election that year, by the way. So that happened, and that was the end of that lesson. So many of you might remember, and again, some of you are going to hear some things now because, again, Eric Love and these guys, they, like I said, I was told he's making a live video. Of course he is. He has to, because I shared his arrest record of his past. And again, I'm not one to share people's past, because if somebody repents of their past, you don't bring it up, okay? But if they didn't repent, it's fair game. So if somebody was abusive in their past and they're still abusive now, they didn't repent. That's who they still are. So you may not be, whipping people with guns anymore. You may not be slinging dope anymore, but you're still a scumbag, and you're still out there, and you're still abusing people. You're still victimizing people. You're stalking people. You are the same person as you were back then. And I always love these people cry about, bringing up my past. They do it to me all the time. This guy literally ran a background check on my wife and speculated over something that's not even her. Remember JT talks about, Rich has got a past. No, I don't. I was arrested like 3 times in my life, and never once was a conviction, ever. I'm still allowed to have a gun. And I didn't lie about that. I even showed the paperwork from it, from the court and everything else, showing it was dismissed. So you can say, oh, it was a plea deal. You ain't, no, it wasn't. You have no idea what you're talking about. You're just speculating because you're, whatever. So anyway, I'm going to, so we're moving forward here. We're doing this, we're doing that. Then, we're in West Virginia, and we said, okay, we knew we weren't going to stay in West Virginia. We knew that God had bigger plans for us. So our lease was up in West Virginia, and we were praying about it. And Ryan and Kelly and Sherry and them and Aaron Guidry might remember this. And we were like, okay, we don't know where God wants us. So we're praying about it. And we hope you guys will pray with us to where God wanted to put us. And Amanda and I started looking around, and we're like, okay, we got North Carolina. We're looking at South Carolina. We were looking at like Myrtle Beach, and we're looking at, whatever. And then the whole thing with Greg Locke happened where he cheated on his wife and all that broke and blah, blah, blah. And, everybody's coming to me from his, that left his church and are saying, oh, Greg Locke. And, so we helped expose that whole thing. Now, Pope and Penn did most of it, but I was getting stuff from people and I would give it to those guys and they outed it and all that stuff there. So whatever. But anyway, so we never thought about Tennessee. And I mean, literally people were contacted and said, hey, I know you guys are praying about where God wants you. Did you ever think about Tennessee? And I said, no. I said, not really. I said that, Tennessee is like the Bible Belt. You don't need somebody like me there. You have all these other churches there. And the theme that we got was, yeah, we have a lot of bad churches here. So, then Amanda started getting messages and she said, Rich, and I said the same thing. I said, I think we should move to Tennessee. And I didn't really want to because of Tennessee. We didn't go there. So, we actually wanted to go because we had met Joe and Luann and all that. And, we wanted to be around people we knew at this point. We're like, oh, great. So we actually moved to the eastern side of the state in Piney Flats, Tennessee. And I mean, as soon as I moved there, that first weekend, the guy, JT, he's like, oh my gosh, Warriors for Christ is in Tennessee. And he can say what he wants, but he was following our page. And again, because we had gotten a reputation point because we were going to the drag queen story hours and we were actually getting him either shut down or they would have him one time and never have him again after we expose him with some of the things that we were doing. So Cookville just happened to have their first drag queen story hour. And these guys reached out to me and said, hey, can you come here? I said, dude, I just moved here. And they put me in a group of like Tim Brown and Dale Walker and these guys and Sherman and that. And, they were all excited that I was here. And I was like, oh, that's nice. So I said, okay, well, I just moved here. I can't go this one, but I'm sure I'll do it again. The deal, I'll be back out there. So that's what happened. They had another one. And they didn't have it at the library because that was kind of our stomping ground, if you will. We're getting them shut down the library. So they had it at another place, thought that they can go behind the building and have it there where we wouldn't be able to catch them. We wouldn't be able to preach in there. They're trying to hide it because of who we were. But they didn't know that the night before we went to the place where they're going to have it and we scoped out the parking lot and happened to meet one of the other business owners in the strip mall, the T-Mobile store. And the manager is like, yeah, you guys can use our spot back here. We don't park back anyway. So you guys, we'll set up a little tent for you guys out here and we'll set up chairs for you guys. And you guys can stand. We're like, man, they're not going to know this would hit them at all because now they thought they're going to be slick by hiding the public sidewalks here. You got strip mall. They were behind in the back of the building there by one of the little things. I'm like, we're going to be right there with them. And they weren't going to know what's hit them. So that drag queen story hour really, I mean, there were so many people that came out there. They were hoisting our band. And again, I don't want to, elevate myself on this one, but, this is when I met Dale. This is when I met, JT and these guys for the first time. And, again, we were known for shutting down we were known to shut down the drag queen stores at this time. That was our reputation. And Dale had a lunch for everybody and his wife actually gave me the biggest compliment I ever had. I walked in, I had the Words for Christ shirt on. She goes, oh, you're the Words for Christ guy. You're the one who's bulletproof. And it seems like such a silly thing to say, but I thought that was amazing. And I appreciated that. And at the time, I appreciated Dale and his wife. Dale and I actually did a lot of good work together, and I learned a lot from Dale. And I just wish, things didn't go the way they did with him, because I did. I did learn some things from Dale. I'm not going to pretend like I didn't. I would never know the stuff I know about going to state legislators and that if it weren't for him. So anyway, we go out there, and we preach hard against them there, and they cried about it. Then somebody uncovered that there was possibly some money laundering going on here because one group was nonprofit funneling money to another one who claimed they were nonprofit. And, then all of a sudden the Antifa freaks at the library, they work for library, were coming out there and we were going and library and exposing that the librarian was actually calling Antifa to come through violence against me. They were calling these groups from Lafayette, Louisiana, who actually were in the news for threatening violence. And so we had, by within a year or two, we had pretty much pushed those guys back in the closet, and they were done. Then the school gave my son a flyer, flyer burning condoms, and we stood up against that, and that went national news. And the governor changed the laws there, and I got access to the governor at that point. Then they tried to make a book saying, they want to teach kids that Allah and God are the same. We stood against that. They never adopted that. So clearly God had a purpose for us in Tennessee. Well, anyway, our lease was up in Piney Flats. And, we were like, okay, they raised the rent. And I was like, I'm not paying, it was too much money. And we wanted to be out in Cookeville, closer to Nashville, because it was costing me a fortune going from, Piney Flats out to Cookeville and Nashville. It was costing me a fortune. So I said, why don't we just go out there? Again, a lot of people like to speculate why we moved, but this is why. And the people that know, they know why, so we moved to Cookeville, and we loved it out there, man. We loved it. I mean, it was great. I mean, we got into with the kids with the animals. I met Ruben. We hosted SOPA. Tennessee was a nice place to be. There wasn't all this LGBT stuff. The governor was great. The governor would actually sit down and listen to us, and we testified in the House against Facebook, against the drag queen stuff, and we worked with Senator Pody. I got to meet Eric Trump, and I met it was really nice living in Tennessee. We started to get a reputation amongst police in Mount Juliet. They liked us. The sheriffs up in other counties. I mean, after I left, I got a call, and they were like, "Hey, we know who you are, and you're on the." I still get calls. I mean, a representative texted me the other day and said, "Hey, what can I do to help?" So I mean, we had it really good in Tennessee. I mean, and of course, our Cookeville, our lease was up, and I was mad at the woman at first. I offered her money to stay there because we liked it, but look. At the end of the day, she got almost $700,000 for a house, like $657, $675, something like that. If I was in her shoes, I would have done the same thing. So I can't get mad at her for that. We were leasing it. We were there for a little over, a year and a half, something like that, and the housing market exploded there. And I can't say anything bad. I mean, like I said, she sold the house. She wanted it. I wasn't going to pay that much money for it. And I would have done the same thing. So it was at that time, though, things had died down the LGBT. And this is when we exposed Sherman for cheating on his wife. And this is when we found out some of the people that were supposed to be friends of ours really weren't. They were using us because of the media stuff. They were using us because of some of the attention we had. But once that attention started dying down, and once the controversial stuff in Tennessee was dealt with, not happening anymore, well, we were no longer useful for them. So again, we exposed what I believe to be a predator based upon his behavior and things he said and did. And because the guy is rich and has money, Dale sided with him and didn't like the fact that I exposed him because I didn't go to him first. Well, and when I tried explaining, this is a guy that records stuff. He's known for it. And then it takes recordings and cuts out and edits them and twists them. I'm not going to set myself up for that situation. And other brothers even said it was wise for me to do it the way that I did. Because his buddy there, the other guy, the JT guy, he does that. And he still does that stuff. That's why you got to be careful you talk on the phone, because you don't know who's recording you. And they will take what you say and they will twist it and distort. That's what these guys do. I mean, you look at ministries on social media today. The ones that are, they're these guys, that's all they do. They don't do any ministry anywhere else. Their entire life is focused on trying to take down other ministries that are actually doing stuff. And it never works, but they try because they're devils. They work for the devil. And they use things like that. They take your words, they twist them. I mean, look, when my daughter Rihanna, I went to preach in Mardi Gras, and everybody knows at this point, she snuck out of the house late at night, and she really had to work to do it too. And got herself knocked up because she, whatever. I rebuked her just like I would anybody else. And unfortunately, that baby had died there some weeks. And it was terrible. I had never seen a dead baby before. But that was bad. It's like burned into my brain. I don't ever want to see that again. And I told that because JT had repented and we had kind of made amends, because of the lie. I mean, he was, whatever. But I had talked to him about my daughter, Rihanna, and I said I had to make a decision where if she wanted to live in sin, I said, she can't live in my house. And if she wanted it, she can't. And I had to make the choice. And I said, you know what? You can't be here. If you're going to do this, you can't be in my house. I have all these other kids to worry about, and I'm not going to have sin in my house. So these guys want to use this as a point to attack me. Oh, his teenage daughter got pregnant. Yeah, but I made the choice biblically what I had to do. But I told this to JT in confidence as a friend because it was tough to deal with. And what does he do? He goes and tells Eric Love and thinks that that's not gossip. I literally told him that in confidence. What happened with all that? And he literally went and told Eric. And I don't know what version he said, but it doesn't matter. I don't care who you are. You tell something to somebody in confidence like that, and they go run their mouths to use to attack you. You could say whatever you want. You could try to justify it. That is gossip. That is literally, God hates that. And he hates people that do that. Literally hates them for that. Now, these guys always try to justify, it's not gossip. That is textbook gossip. When somebody tells you something in confidence, because they're trying to either just talk it or deal with it, and you go and tell somebody else, that's gossip. And of course, these guys will try to redefine the word gossip. That's what they do. But that in of itself should tell you the character of who you're dealing with here. The same guy, by the way, in the beginning of this video, I said he went out to lunch with John McGlone and Eric Painter, and left his body came on and says, well, I didn't know it was on, because he realized how wicked it is to record people like that and set them up. And then they called him out for editing the video. Both of them called him out for heavily editing the video to make it seem like things were said that were not said in an attempt to sow discord. And it almost worked. If I didn't talk to those two guys, it would have worked. But they even said, nope, it was heavily edited. He edited, and he thinks that there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. He took the video down and said, oh, I want peace with you, but hasn't done anything to indicate peace with me since then. Anyway, this is what we deal with now because we stood up against the LGBT. Now we're exposing the pedophile stuff. Now we're exposing the grooming stuff. We've been doing it for years, but now it's really come to a head and other people are getting involved and other people are exposing it. And the devil doesn't like it because there is a lot of pushback against this now. There really is. But anyway, back to there. So the house got sold in Cookville, and at this point in time, the Lord had said, it's time to move on. Shake the dust off because you were here. You push this stuff back. The pride events aren't happening. The drag queen stories are done. They weren't happening at all anymore. They were completely finished. And yet the churches still don't want to work with street preachers. They still push you out of the thing. They still think whatever. And if they're not getting aboard, then the people that you're supposed to be your brothers, Dale and them, literally turned on you because of a guy that has money. I mean, Dale actually blocked every street preacher there was because he was afraid, like a coward, afraid that they were going to either rebuke him or say something to him. He blocked everybody. Now, he shares Arter stuff like he's buddies with Arter, but Arter thinks what they did was pretty low down, too. Arter Pawlowski thinks that they're pretty bad, too, what they did to me. Anyway. So God said, shake the dust off. If they're not willing to stand up for their state, stand up for, whatever, it's time to move on. And I know my critics going to say it's, this is prideful, whatever, because it doesn't matter what I say or do. No matter what I say or do, they're going to find fault in it, right? Just like when the lawmaker called me reverend. Oh, that's wicked and evil, right? That's just the way the Pharisees are. No matter what you say or do, they're going to find fault. But anyway, so God had said, when you're not here, no, but the LGBT is going to come out of the closet and they're going to come out worse than they were before you got here. And I said, I'm only one guy, because again, whenever anything was organized, we organized it. Okay. So, and if you want to criticize, you can ask Josh, you can ask Gary's Painter, you can ask the people that we talked when we were getting ready to leave. God had literally told me that when I leave, there is no more straining back the Holy Spirit because these churches in Tennessee don't care. They only care about whatever. And and look what's happening in Tennessee. Matt Walsh is doing it great there, what he did with Vanderbilt. But for the most part, the drag queen stuff's happening even more than it was. The pride events are happening more. I mean, it's insane what's happening. And it's because, and that's why, I got the revelation when it talks about, that the lawless will come when the restrainers are moved, because there's a lot of speculation who the restrainer is. And I believe it's the church. But this is a good example. When the church is doing its job, the church will restrain evil. But when the church is not doing its job, you cannot restrain evil. So this is proof when you see that you can be a church, you can do all these things here, but if you have no power from the Holy Ghost, if you're not effective, you cannot restrain evil. And that's what we see happening. And it's sad because you guys don't know how much I love Tennessee. I mean, I love Tennessee. Mostly because how easy it was there for us as a ministry. Like I said, I had the governor, I would go to Nashville and his right-hand man would be like, hey, come sit down and talk to us. And we would go down and talk to him. And, we'd go to the senator. Senator Pody came to SOPA for crying out loud and spoke at SOPA. It was great. It was a good environment for us as a ministry. We didn't have much trouble at all. The only trouble we got was from people who call themselves Christians. Right? And I hated leaving. So what happened was God said that, and we said, well, I really would like to stay in Tennessee. And we looked and we found the house in Mount Juliet. And the owner was a Muslim, and he was a nice guy. We thought he was. And he's like, oh, we got 7 acres. I'm like, oh, we could bring our animals. This is perfect. So we moved in. We gave the deposit. We moved in there. Brought our animals over. Then the neighbors moved in to find out we don't have 7 acres. We have about a half an acre. And his thing was, oh, I didn't know. I didn't do it. Well, that's not my fault. So we had a half an acre. Our animals started dying because we had to cram in this little bitty space. And I said, this is not working at all. And we went to court. And I didn't, and the judge told him flat out, you are lucky he's not suing you for money, because you told them when they rented this place that they could have 7 acres and they got what, a half, maybe 3/4 the most, and they lost how many animals because they had to cram them in there because you didn't know? No. And I said, whatever, we just went out. And that's exactly, that's what happened. So again, a lot of people want to speculate why we only lived there for so long when we moved. That's why. There's no conspiracy there. Again, this is what happens when people don't know you personally and they see something and they want to frame a narrative around it they don't know. And they lie about it. And of course, you notice they never repent for their lies, ever. And just so you know, somebody said that guy is doing a live video right now about me. Of course he is. As soon as I made the post about him, I even said to my wife, here comes video number 963. Because that's what he does. When he gets exposed, he has to make a video now because he's afraid people are going to see him for who he is, and he has to make a video. It'll probably be 3 or 4 hours long, in which he'll try to justify. And what he'll do is he'll say, "Oh, look, he's accused me of this." Well, no, actually, I just shared the news article where the police arrested you and accused you of it. They accused you, so you can spin it however you want. And I pointed out and said, you are not a repentant man. You're still abusive. You're still stalking. I mean, you literally stalked my wife. She had to put little signs in our law to prove that you were stalking her. We have proof now that you're stalking my wife. You're a married man, and he's a married man, and he's stalking my wife on Facebook. You can say what you want, and I know his little groupies there. There's 2 or 3 groupies that literally hang on every word that he does because they hate me as much as the homos hate me. They believe everything the guy says. But my point is that the speculation and why we do things because, hey, we moved. Well, he moved because you have no idea why. And speculating, by the way, is a sin. Now, I know these guys will probably say, he's lying about it because, they know me. While they cry, stop, you don't know me personally. And then, anyway. So we moved in that house, and it was a disaster. We knew we shouldn't live there. We knew God said shake the dust off. We believe this guy, and we got out of our lease, no problem. And, this house in Oklahoma came up, and I'm like, oh, I really want to go to Oklahoma. Yeah, I don't want to go there. It's in Oklahoma, right? Nothing. And I said, well, maybe it's good because we could take a little break. Fortunately, it didn't happen. I traveled more here than I have ever. Praise God for doing, now we're, we've exposed what potentially could be a child trafficking ring. There's an investigation going on about that. And we actually uncovered a hospital here that's actually putting kids on hormone blockers, and they're trying to help them get gender surgery on children. And, I've talked to lawmakers today about it, and one specifically told me that he contacted Oklahoma University with their drag queen stuff. They're not doing that anymore with the kids. And now the hospital thing, there's a bill that's going to be coming out in the Senate, and we're going to help push that and back that with all this evidence from the hospital, what they're doing, all this stuff. So there's a reason why we're here. Tennessee's got Matt Washington pushing back on it. The governor's now doing that. And maybe God put us here to deal with that here in Oklahoma. I don't know. But, uncovering the stuff we've uncovered here, it's pretty crazy. And taking what I learned about dealing with, things with lawmakers and whatnot in Tennessee, we've brought it here with us here. And this is how we got here. So I went from an abused child who was tortured by my stepmother, sexually abused, beaten, foster care, drugs, womanizing, dating strippers, to who we are today. And it again, my life is literally proof of God. Because even people in high school, I used to walk in high school with a big silver upside down cross. And I was in in-school suspension, and I remember this one guy said, "What is that about?" I said, "What the F do you think it's about?" He goes, "Oh, okay, my bad." And they see me now, and they're like, "Wow, that is not, whatever." So my life, to people that actually know me, who I was compared to now, is proof of God's power to change somebody. And, even we hear all the time, and it is true, that and the Bible says he was forgiven much, and I'll put my little spin on it, if you will, because it says loves much, but we appreciate God more for what he's done. Because, I could sit here and I could lament and I could cry over all things that happened as a kid. I was abused. But I could do all that. And then would I be justified? Maybe, I don't know. But I would certainly at least have a reason to justify why I, whatever. But I don't, because you know what? God I don't feel bad about it at all anymore. Like, it doesn't bother me at all anymore. I don't feel the desire, like I don't want to be part. I don't feel the desire to die anymore. I don't feel any anger towards those people. Like I saw a question says, how did you forgive your stepmother? And I don't know if I necessarily forgave her or not, but I'm indifferent towards her now. I don't. Again, I know that she's not a Christian. I know that she's a reprobate. I know she doesn't feel bad about anything she did to us. But I'm 46 years old at this point in my life. Am I going to really sit here and go boo hoo hoo what she make and still let it bother? Because if I do that, then the devil wins. Because that's what the devil wants. The devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And as a child, he tried to destroy me when I was a kid, and he almost succeeded. That's what the devil does. The devil is all about destruction, destroying people's lives. Whereas Jesus is trying to build their lives, give them life. And again, you want to talk about what somebody is a Christian or not. What is their goal? Why are they doing what they do? Are they so focused on destroying, or are they focused on, trying to interject life? There's a lot of people that say street preachers are harsh or street preachers, but you don't understand why we do what we do. You have to remember, and again, all the people that criticize have never dealt with who we deal with. These are the hardest of hearts of people that exist in this world. And a loving different message isn't going to work. It hasn't worked thus far. And doing the same thing over and over again without success, it's madness. It's lunacy. And again, I know that's not, but I know Einstein had said that. It's not really, but anyway, it does make sense. These people don't understand. Most of these people think that what they're doing is godly. They think that it's moral. They think that it's right because they have been conditioned by the world and a lot of churches to believe that this is okay. But our goal is we don't want them to die in their sin and go to hell. We preach against them and what they do because we want them to have life. We want them to not live this depraved lifestyle. We want them to come out of it and have the life that only Jesus can give. So while we may call somebody wicked and perverse and these things, it's not to hurt them personally. It's to make them realize that this is how God sees you. And if you understand that God sees you this way, maybe you'll change your life and allow Jesus to clean you up and fix you up. But you have these other guys, like the Eric Loves and the JT Olsons, their whole job is to try to destroy people. And they do it with lies, speculation, rumor, gossip. And again, and of course, I've shown evidence. What evidence have they ever shown? Out of context clips they've taken, that's not evidence. You don't even have witnesses to it. The only witnesses you have are witnesses that you've created by your lies. That's how you know somebody what's of the devil and what's of God. What is the modus operandi, if you will? When people's focus, what do? And you can say what you want, but Eric Love, I am his idol. Oh, I am his idol. Because he literally can't function without even mentioning my name. He has to make fake profile after fake profile on my videos every week. He literally goes to other people's YouTube channels who have nothing to do with me, and he has to talk about me. My wife lists stuff on the Facebook Marketplace, and there he is watching her. He's on my daughter's Facebook page. And he thinks that this is what godly people do? Oh, you're just an accuser. I'm an accuser? Why? Because I shared the newspaper article that said you got arrested for pistol whipping somebody? That's what the newspaper article, you did get accused of that. And he says it's dismissed, but we know the guy lies. He literally said his restraining order was dismissed because there was no case, but he said the exact same thing about my situation with him, and that's not true at all. It was dismissed because he said that he was going to stop harassing and stalking us. That's what he said. Now, of course, it's like, well, my lawyer technically said it to them. His lawyer operates. Are you really saying that your lawyer didn't operate on your behalf? Is he saying that he didn't authorize his lawyer to say that? Because if so, then that means his lawyer breached his fiduciary duty. And that would mean he could be disbarred for that. Maybe we should get that clip and go to his lawyer and see if that's what happened there. Because if he did authorize that, then that shows you right there. That one thing alone tells you he is not a man of his word. He's a liar. And again, what is that? And this is the issue I have with that kind of stuff, because I don't understand how anybody with any normal thinking can take a look. I don't understand how a woman could look at her husband who is fixated on other men, spends every waking moment of his life downloading my videos, making fake profile after fake profile, literally going to other YouTube channels, being a busybody to talk about me. How could anybody think that that is godly behavior? Nobody I know does. Unless he just denies doing it, which if he denies it, I don't know how you can deny that, but. And I get accused of making faux profiles by him. I've made one YouTube channel, and all I did was take his content like he does everybody else and share it to her. That's it. They accuse others of what they do because that's what they do. They think everybody does it. That's not true at all. It's a lie. But I do believe we're in end times. I do believe with everything going on, Israel today says that they're ready to talk about a two-state solution. That's bad. The red heifer thing, I'm not getting excited about that yet. We don't know where that's going to go. But again, there's a lot of things that are kind of lining up for things to happen. And for me, these guys want to fix that on me because they're children of the devil. That's fine. You're not going to stop me from exposing groomers. You're not going to stop me from exposing pedophiles. The only people that want to stop you from doing that are groomers and pedophiles themselves. If you need to peep on my wife and watch what she does on social media, you're a sick bastard. Like, seriously, why would somebody do that? Oh, I'm just monitoring what they do. What's the reasoning for that? There's no rationale. I'm not doing it. We know we have unequivocal proof that that's what these guys are doing. My wife is listing things in the marketplace. Now, remember, these same guys say, well, they don't work. We don't make money. They have no idea. But when we do stuff like that, they're there and they try to shut it down. That's what they do. But why? Why would married men be so worried about what my wife is doing on Facebook? Why? What's the reasoning behind that? She's not talking about them. Yes, she put the note in there. It says Eric loves kids and that. How would you know that unless you're watching her posts? Nobody that knows you is in these groups that she's posting in. You only know that, and that's why she did it, to prove that you're watching and stalking her. Married men are stalking other women on Facebook, and there really is no justification for it. There's none. We want to see if she's talking about us. No, you're stalking her because she doesn't. She only did that because she knows you're watching. And now she caught you. So and I'm sure he'll lie and come up with a reason for it, but why does a married man worry about what my wife is doing on Facebook? She doesn't post about him. She doesn't do anything to anybody. So why do they follow my wife on Facebook? Why do they watch her? What's the reasoning? What's the rationale? I would love to hear that one. Why are they so fixated on me? Oh my gosh, because I said that Jesus said, give man a fish. I was talking about the principle behind the fisher of men. Everybody knows that. Oh, that's it. We got him. The same guy that believes the ETH and committeth in the King James means ongoing action. That's what he said. No, that it signifies archaic third person. It doesn't even say that's what it is. The same one who says Psalms 111:9. It's Psalm, not Psalm. Psalms when you talk about the whole chapter, not a verse. But yeah, you know, these guys are the ones we listen to. Like I said, I'm sick of them. They are wicked as hell. Their entire life is fixated on me and my wife and my children. They are pure, unadulterated, evil bastards. And I know they're going to take this, and I'm sure they're going to make another 4-hour video about it, because after all, that's what narcissists do. They have to try to control the narrative. They have to try to frame it in such a way to make them look like they're the innocent victim in all this. That's what the LGBT does. They victimize people till you get sick of it. Then they push back and, well, we're the poor victims here. Look, in the past year and a half, there have been 2 conservatives that have been killed by liberals. There have been more conservatives killed in this country in the last year than there ever has been of an LGBT person. And yet they still try saying, oh, we're being killed. We're being oppressed. No, you're not. You are victimizing other people. And then when other people have enough of it and push back, we're being victimized. We're being oppressed. No, you have victimized people to the point where they're sick of it, and now they're pushing back, and you don't like it. Because after all, that's what narcissists, that's what devils need to do. They need to make it all about themselves, how they're the victim. But you don't ever hear how they victimize the other story, because their fans, their people, they don't care what, like you think the homos care anything I have to say at this point? They don't care, the ones on Facebook. They're not going to listen to anything I say. They're going to believe whatever they say. You know, Eric Love and his little people there. I always hope that someday they'll wake up and go, whoa, you know, you're a little crazy here with this. But I don't expect it after 3 years and they still don't see it. I don't expect it to happen. I always hope that it does, because again, you know, the Bible talks about when somebody's a malicious gossip, when they make up rumor, when they make up things like that, when they speculate and do that, and you hold hands with them, you're just as bad as they are. We're not gossiping, we're exposing. Yes, you don't even know anything about me. JT told me about your daughter. Oh, did he? Did you hear from me? No, then it's gossip. And I know they'll make a video explaining how it's not gossip, because again, that's what devils do. They have to redefine. That's what false prophets and false teachers do too. They have to redefine the terms so they don't look like they're in error. And that's why you'll see them do 4-hour videos about, well, Rich posted these articles about my past and he repented of it. Well, if you weren't the same guy you were, then there'd be no reason to bring it up. But your past is not your past when you're still doing the things that make you an abusive scumbag. That is still what you do today. And you can slice it any way you want. It doesn't matter. All I know is I'm here. I'm the one who's testifying in House committees. I'm the one who people are reaching out to for help. All you do is sit there and go, Rich Penkoski is a liar. Rich Penkoski is this. Rich Penkoski, Rich Penkoski, Rich Penkoski. Don't be a Penkoski, 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 Penkoski. That's your life. Let's just look at that and say who's godly and who's not based on that fact alone. I'm not obsessed with Rich Penkoski. What would you call that? I get emails all the time with screenshots of literally the conversations he has about me on other people's channels that have nothing to do with me. Nothing. He just can't stop thinking about me, and he can't keep my name out of his mouth. That is obsession. My wife posts something on the marketplace and they watch and then talk about it. That is stalking, that is cyber stalking, and it's obsession. Three years, still doing the same thing. Nothing has been, I mean, it just amazes me. But anyway, so praise God. This is why we're here. I hope you guys, my testimony again, you know, I tried to condense it down as best I could, because there's so much more I could tell. Like, you know, we go to church. When I got baptized, I didn't tell you that part of my testimony. You know, I didn't, you know, but there's so, you know, because I really want to focus on what I came from and where I am now, because it shows the power of God in somebody's life. You know, and I can't even justify it correctly, and not justify, I can't even give it its due justice, if you will, of how bad things were when we were kids. I mean, we were tortured. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. Beaten, bleach in our mouth. I mean, literally, when I had poison ivy, you cut my hands open and put them in iodine and alcohol and I'm screaming in pain, and you hold them there to, whatever. You lock us in a room. I mean, no water. I have to drink out of a pool because it's so thirsty. I mean, it was that. I mean, we used to have to go. We were so hungry during the day that, back then people put like their newspaper money in the mailbox, and we would go and try to take it in the mailboxes early in the morning just so we can go buy like breakfast. That's how hungry we were on Sundays, that because we, it was pure hell. But, God had taken what happened to me. The devil tried to destroy us, and God had turned that around, and look where we are today. I mean, I've stood in front of House Judiciary Committee, and I've testified. Facebook sent a lobbyist who, when I was done testifying, had nothing to say. This is God working in somebody's life. This is God working through us. This is God giving Christians the victory. It's evident of God, because a schmuck like me could never get there on my own. I mean, who am I? It's not like it's not like I'm a Joel Osteen. It's not like, it's not like I'm out there preaching sunshine and roses and all that stuff there. No, we preach against sin, and we tell things to people that they don't want to hear because it's the truth. And yet we are still in a position where we have influence to the point where we can expose things and change things and get laws passed. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. Right? It's winning people with the truth. It's protecting the innocent. It's protecting children. That's what it's all about. But instead, like I said, God took me from that point. This is what we're doing now. And again, maybe that's why I'm so big on protecting these kids, because of my horrible job. Maybe, I don't know. But maybe that's why it's such a big thing for me, because I truly hate what I see these people doing to kids. I mean, I hate it. What they're doing to these kids. I can't even... I try to understand why they think it's okay to do this, and I can't. Like, I hate what they're doing to these kids. And maybe it's because of my child, like I said, that's why it's such a big thing. I don't know. But again, I want you to take a look at the ministry. When you're evaluating ministry, whether you listen to somebody or not, again, because I don't tell people you have to just listen to me. I mean, there are other good brothers and sisters out there. To each his own. There's people that like guys that I may not like, but hey, who you like is none of my business. Who you listen to is none of my business. Jet Smock liked listening to Joel Osteen. He didn't preach like Joel Osteen. He didn't believe what Joel Osteen did, but if he wanted to listen to him, he's not living in sin, so hey, whatever, it's his prerogative. I wouldn't listen to it, but whatever. I don't tell people, you have to listen to me, and not, no. Everything that I tell you, look it up for yourself, biblically speaking. Look in the Bible. Look everything. You don't have to, and I'm not offended by that. I appreciate those that say they trust you, but trust is something that has to be earned. You need to look up for yourself. Because when you are in a public position, when you do have a ministry, when you do have people that watch and listen to you, and you have people that, that they did offend you, you can let things get to your head. And the way to keep you from getting to a point where whatever is to have you guys completely in your Bibles, have you guys reading the scriptures, and make sure that what I'm saying lines up with the word of God. To make sure. Now, look, as a Christian, as somebody, are there times that I may get something off? Yes, of course. But if you say it, like I used to believe once saved, always saved, but, read the Bible, I've had to correct that. Not a big deal. People do it all the time. That's why we read the word of God, to make sure we're constantly in it, to make sure that if we, if there's something that, that's why I ask. If you believe something and the Bible says something that contradicts what you believe, are you willing to change your mind? If you're willing to change your mind about something because the Bible reveals it to you, it's not a sin to do that. Some people say it is, but it's not. So it's you guys being in the word for yourselves, and and again, listen to the teachers. I'm sure that some of you guys listen to people that we may not agree in everything, and that's okay. As long as they're not living in sin, as long as they're not preaching heresy, I'm not going to argue and debate with people about it. Look, Ruben and I have disagreements on things. Adam and I, we all have disagreements, but they're not salvific in nature. We're not going to tear each other apart and rip each other apart over things that, that aren't necessarily salvific in nature. I'm a pre-trib rapture guy. I know there's people out there that say pre-trib is going to go to hell. No, it's not. Post-trib, if you believe in post-trib, you're not going to go to hell. You're not going to go to hell. Now, if you're the kind of mentality, I'm not going to do anything waiting for Jesus, now that's a whole other story, but that's not a pre-trib. That's how to do with you. But again, you have the so-called National Enquirer of Christianity, where they literally just they're like tabloid Christians. They got the hot, juicy gossip that they want to share with you. They can't wait to share with you about this guy or that guy. And 90% of what they say is false. They take a little bit of truth, right? And the truth is something that, you take a clip here, like when I told that woman, if you want to bend over the sodomites, go ahead. And it turned into Rich Penkoski tells Christian woman, whatever. The woman supported LGBT. She clearly wasn't a Christian, but because I said that, the clip was taken out of context, and Rich Penkoski says women should be raped by sodomites. That's literally not what happened. The woman came on there defending homosexuals. I said, listen, if you want to be with the homosexuals, then go be with the homos. Bend over and let them sodomize you. That's what I said, and that's the context of it. But these slanderous devils, they hear this and they go, "Ooh, I can make that say something it's not." And that's what they do. And to be honest, if people listen to clips about people and they're going to make a judgment call on that, don't follow me. Don't subscribe to my channel, because I don't want that. I want people that want to stand on the word of God, not gossip, not tabloid Christianity, not people that will say whatever. I don't care. These guys have made hundreds of videos about me, and it has had almost no impact whatsoever. And they still do it, as if somehow people are going to magically go, "Oh my gosh." Remember, these people want you to believe what they say about me, not about what people that know me say about me. It's amazing. But this is what happens when you're a threat to the kingdom of darkness. Again, when you're exposing evil, when you're actually out there preaching and making a difference, there you see these guys, and all they do, they're like the thorn in your side. They are literal devils sitting there trying to poke you, trying to do this, trying to do that, trying to get you to lose your focus, trying to stop you what you're doing, because either they themselves want what you have, or they just hate you with all the fire of hell. Or they secretly worship you and just can't admit it. But anyway, I've been on here for 2.5 hours. I gave you my testimony there. I know I spoke it, in the middle there, but again, we're living in a time now, and for me as a Christian, to me, it's exciting to see what God's doing and how God's moving and how we see certain things in the Bible being, actually coming to pass as they are. The false teachers they're popping up everywhere. Everywhere. I heard a video today of a guy saying that if you preach obedience, you're going to hell. Now, again, what I find fascinating about this is, when I first got saved, I did believe once saved, always saved. I don't anymore. So to a once saved, always saved guy, they say I'm going to hell, but I believed like you at one point in time. You say that if you become unbelief, you're still going to heaven. So aren't I still going to go to heaven then? That's your belief, right? It's amazing how that works. But I heard a guy today say that tares are people that teach that you have to obey Jesus. I literally heard somebody say that today. That the wheats are those who have the true gospel of Jesus, that recognize that we will never stop sinning, that, once we believe we can sin and we won't, still going to get heaven. He literally said these words. And that the tares are those who preach obedience to Jesus is necessary for salvation. And they believe that those who say you have to obey Jesus are going to hell, and the ones who teach you don't have to obey Jesus are going to go to heaven. That's what they believe. And I heard somebody say that today. And people want to latch on to that because people love their sin. They say they hate their sin because they know they should say that. But they love their sin. They don't want to stop sinning. So they look for theologies, they look for doctrines to appease their guilty conscience about sin, because they don't want the conviction of sin. They want sin, but they don't want to be convicted of it. So they find a way around the conviction. It's wicked. But this is popping up everywhere. And, there is a separation right now, and the good and the bad. And, again, when you're a Christian, you're going to be hated. Remember, Jesus had some of those vile things thrown at him, accusation-wise. So as a Christian, bring the accusations on. You want to call me a glutton? Fine. They called Jesus a glutton too. You want to call me slanderer? They called Jesus a slanderer. It's the slanderers that are doing the slandering. And I know I kind of took the bait because they want to bait you into something so they can have a reason to talk more because, oh, look, he's attacking me again, but whatever. But Jesus, the apostles, men of God throughout history have always had the most evil things spoken about them. That's what the devil does, because the devil doesn't want you to be successful in ministry, because he doesn't want you to lift people out of whatever it is that the bondage that they're in sin. The devil doesn't mind somebody being in sin. He's not going to attack those people. The devil's not going to attack the slanderer. That's why the slanderers don't have anything to worry about. Their faith doesn't cost them anything. But I know nobody will preach me anymore. You said that's because of you, not them. I mean, you can't have it both ways. Which one is it? We're to be above reproach. But when people see you and know you as a slanderer and a liar and a predator and a stalker, just because you have 2 or 3 people that don't see it the way because they're just as bad as you, that should tell you something. When a man is literally a married man is following my wife on Facebook to see what she's doing, it's not a good reason. There's no reason to justify that. And if anybody believes the reason they give, you're just as dumb, deluded, or you're probably in a cult. If the leader, your leader tells you they're doing this because I just want to see what you're doing to talk about me. If you believe that, I've got a bridge I could sell you. There is no justification for a married man to be, or any man, to be following and watching what a married woman does on Facebook when she's posting things like clothes for sale. Why are you watching why are you looking up her commerce or marketplace account to begin with? Why are you doing that? What rationale could you possibly have other than just trying to check out my wife? There is no reason for it. There's none. You want to talk about adultery? But we know they'll have a reason why it's okay for them to do it, because that's what Pharisees do. They justify their sinful behaviors, and it's wrong for you to do these things. That's why I said, so the whole thing of rich don't work is he doesn't work with his hands. So because I'm not a physical laborer, that means I'm not really working. That's how they twist things. And they say and they say that, by the way, because these guys are convicted felons who can't get a regular job doing anything. They can't even work for Instacart or DoorDash as a felon. So they'll say that the guys that do Instacart and DoorDash, they're not really working because they're not working with their hands. That's a Pharisee. That's a devil. And I'm telling you this to encourage you, because if you're out there and the kingdom of darkness perceives you as a threat, they're going to do it to you too. And some of you have these guys doing it to you. Lori has them making fake profiles of her, literally stealing pictures of her and her family to make fake profiles to sow discord. And you know who it is. And they think that it's just wickedness, but wickedness is going to abound. Wickedness was, sprung up, and it was becoming more and more wicked in Noah's day. And we know the Bible says wickedness is going to increase. So we shouldn't be surprised by this. Wicked men will always try to say they're righteous. Wicked men will always, that's why you'll see they have to quickly come on there. Like I said, I made a post on my Facebook today. How did he know it was on my Facebook? I didn't tag him. None of the people that know him, we don't have mutual friends that know each other, that whatever. In order for him to know what I posted, he has to come to look on my Facebook to see it. He has to go out of his way, look up Rich Penkoski to see what I'm saying. Why would somebody who hates me so much do that? I just want to see what he's doing. Why? Shall not covet thy neighbor's wife. Why are you worried about what I'm doing? Why do you have to watch my video? I don't watch your videos. I only get clips of a show when you talk about me, or like I said here, always talk about, that's it. Why do you have to constantly watch my videos? I don't watch his videos, but yet you download everything and you literally can play clip, time and date and everything. And then say you don't do that? Of course, we've seen the pictures of the folder. Of course he does. Why does somebody have to do that? It's not like I'm tagging them. It's not like I'm going at them. No, the only time I mention them is when they come after me and I defend myself, or I point out the evil and the hypocrisy. That's it. But again, I asked the question, why are you watching my wife, what she's posting? Why are you my wife? My wife doesn't do this stuff. My wife doesn't go out preaching. Why are you worried about my wife? Why are you going out of your way to look at my wife's stuff? I would love to hear the rationale behind that. Well, she posted notes about me on it. Well, how do you know that if you're not watching her? Nobody in the marketplace is telling you, and she only did that to prove that you are watching her. Why are you watching my wife? There is no reason a married man should be watching anything my wife does online. To out of their way to the marketplace to look up her name, go on her profile, see what she's posting. There's no reason for that. You're right, that's coveting. There's no reason to come on my YouTube channel. I'm not tagging you. I don't use your name in my video, in my descriptions, or I don't use it in the metadata, nothing. There's literally no reason for you, unless you're subscribed, get notified, or go out of your way. That's obsession and stalking. It makes no sense. But I digress. Anyway, 3 hours, I've been on long enough. So thank you guys for coming on tonight. Again, I will not be addressing these guys from here on out. I said what I had to say tonight, and I'm letting you know I'm sick of them. When they come on here with the fake profiles, just get me the URLs and the screenshots and ban them. Kaylee and Lori and them, please. I know it's hard to resist. I know it's hard to do, but do not talk to them. If you converse with them or you directly say, hey, you or whatever, you cannot make a claim for harassment. There has to be no communication to them from you. Now, if I make, like I said, I make the post arrest, I'm not tagging them. There's nothing there. But when somebody is constantly coming at you and you've told them not to, that is harassment. But the minute you engage them, it's no longer harassment. So you cannot, no matter how tempting it is to want to rebuke or anything else, you cannot say, hey, so-and-so or whatever. You cannot do that. Trust me on this. We have talked to a lot of people about this issue. And these guys think because they don't live in the state that they can get around it, but they cannot get around it. There's long arm statutes. There's other ways to do it. I do have the ability in Tennessee. Believe me, you can't. It's hard to do, I know, because you want to defend yourself. I mean, Paul said, hey, you arrested me in public and you're going to release me in private? I don't think so. Paul wanted to defend himself too. I've already defended myself. I don't need defeat anymore. Now it's time to actually involve the law and do what we need to do legally because they deserve to be in jail. They don't think they do. Oh, we're just exposing. It's my religious freedom. No, religious freedom is not stalking people. You want to make videos talking about me, that's fine. But when you're when you're going anyway to look at my wife's stuff, to go on, make fake profiles, to comment on my stuff, to go on my profile and comment when we're not asked to, that is stalking. When you're obsessed and fixated with me, when you're driving to events where I'm preaching at just to try to do whatever, that is stalking. And it's wicked as hell. So with that said, I love you guys. God bless you guys. And listen, CJ, thank you for coming on here tonight. We appreciate you. And Quincy, by the way, Quincy, man, if you guys don't know Quincy, the black conservative preacher, I love that guy. I've worked with Quincy a lot, and I always enjoy speaking with Quincy. I always enjoy conversations on the phone. When we're out in the streets together, I really do enjoy even fellowship with Quincy. And if you've never had the opportunity, Quincy's a really good brother. He's one of those guys too. His show is, it's really good. So if you guys have any, go on his channel as well. Quincy's, again, he's a good brother in Christ. I love him. He's a brother. I love him and his whole family. And he does things. He gets to go places I don't get to go, because he's more media type than I am. But he goes in. I mean, he's the guy that called Bruce Jenner a freak to his face. I mean, come on. He called, hey, Bruce by his name. Who else is going to do that? Okay, I wouldn't be let in there to do that, but he got to do it. So it was actually awesome to see him do it too. Hey, Bruce. He goes, look at that freak, right to him. So make sure you guys give Quincy, give him a subscribe if you haven't yet. And make sure you get notified on his videos as well, because he is a good brother. CJ's one of his mods. Every time I pop on there, they're always saying hi to me and stuff like that. So, we are pretty close. Even some of us haven't met in person yet. We know each other from online. We're pretty close as Christians. We have kindred spirits and whatnot. And, you guys heard my testimony today, and no, I don't have much of a family. You Christians, you're our family. Literally, you're our family. My family is unsaved. Even when I talk to them, I cringe so much because every other word of mouth is the F word. And I know some of it's culture, and you got to give your family a little bit more leeway. But I always like, ugh. But they're unsaved. My mother's still a heathen. My father, I love him. And I'm hoping that, he gets saved and whatnot. And my brothers, I hope I get saved, because I would love to have a relationship with my brothers again, but I can't do it if they're not Christian. I can't listen to justification for watching pornography or the cussing and I can't do it. I love my brothers, but I need them to be saved for me to have a relationship with them. That's the only way it can happen. So if you guys would pray for my family, my blood family, to come around and be convicted, that'd be great, because I would love that to happen. My brother Brian is one who helped us start Wars for Christ. So I would love for him to be part of ministry with us and whatnot. So we do appreciate you all. If you guys want to help, support our ministry, we have a link down below here. We actually have, all kinds of ways if you want to help support the ministry. And you can do so on, we have Zelle, which is pastor@wfcchurch.org. We have Venmo, which is at Wars for Christ. We have CashApp, which is $ Rich Penkoski. And we have our website, of course, wfcchurch.org/give. Some of you did, we did get, pretty good with our Bible reading. We're going to do it again, but, we do have a family that is in need of a refrigerator. They have one, but it's broken, doesn't work. They have nowhere to put their food. I was able to help them get it. We got the refrigerator down to, I think, $300. Again, it's used, fine. But we do have a family in need of a refrigerator. If you guys can help with that, again, we'd appreciate it. I know they'd appreciate it. Again, it's wfcchurch.org/give, or one of the other links above there. More importantly, subscribe to our channel. Make sure if you're on YouTube, you're youtube.com/Warriors for Christ Ministry. Hit subscribe and hit the little bell to get notified. Also, we have the OK Groomer channel, which the channel is literally there just to expose the drag queen stuff, the groomer stuff, which we have really been exposing a lot of it. My Facebook profile, same thing. We've been exposing a lot of it. So if you want to send me a follow or like on Facebook, you can do so also. It's, facebook.com/firebrandpreacher. Rich Penkoski. I got 2 Rich Penkoski profiles. My main one got shut down, but I got 2 because one of them didn't work. Then I made another one, but now they both work. So whatever. I do not do PayPal. I'm not allowed to have PayPal because I'm on the Southern Poverty Law Center's list as an anti-LGBT hate group. So no PayPal for me. We do have Venmo and we do have Zelle. We do have CashApp and my website. If you have a credit card or debit card from PayPal, you can do my website, wfcchurch.org/give. Again, we're trying to pick up that fridge by Monday afternoon. CJ, we'll pray for your son as well. And if you ever need somebody to talk to him, I'm more than happy to do so. I don't know if you listen to my whole testimony tonight. I don't know what's going on with your son, but I'm more than happy to sit down and talk with your son and talk with you if you'd like. I can give you my number if you email me. I'm not going to give it publicly, obviously, but I'm more than happy to do that as well. We always want to help our brethren. Again, subscribe to our channel, youtube.com/Warriors for Christ Ministry and youtube.com/OKGroomer. When we're done with the video here, make sure you guys share the video. Make sure you give it a like, give it a comment, because that's how we get around the YouTube algorithm. Christians, conservatives. I mean, look at Quincy's page. Quincy should have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people watching him, but he doesn't. Because, again, they thought him because he's a conservative. So the only way around this is, and I know Quincy, you never asked, but share his stuff. Share the Christian stuff. Encourage your family and friends to subscribe and get notified, because in the days now, it's better to be equipped by brothers and sisters who are going to speak the truth to you, who are going to speak the word of God into your life, and all these things here. So, you're in the Netherlands? We have another sister in the Netherlands too, and she has yet to figure out how to send to us, but that's okay. If you can't, you can't. We appreciate you anyway. Again, you can pray for us. I don't think there's really any way the Netherlands can do it other than through Zelle. And again, I don't have PayPal. I'm not allowed to have PayPal. So, but again, if you want to help contribute to get that refrigerator, again, the links are on this side, right here, and then our YouTube channel there. So, thank you guys. We love you. Don't forget, this weekend we are going to be on Saturday in Abilene, Texas, preaching against their very first Pride Parade. Now, the citizens of Abilene, they don't want it. They don't like it. But the Pride people have said that they're doing it because they want to convert them to allies. They're out there to try to win them over. Well, we're there to rebuke them, because you know what? People don't need to be won over by filth and perversion. Some guys like, we're not here just expressing our sexuality. Yeah, that's pretty much what you're doing. That's exactly. No, and I don't know how they can keep saying that when we have video and other people have video of what they do in the streets. That's exactly what they do. They're twerking, they're half naked, they simulate sex. Everything about Pride is sex. Everything. And the fact that they lie about it, people still go, oh, it amazes me. Maybe people must have blinders on. I don't know. Ruben, I don't know if Ruben has PayPal or not. He does, but if you send it to Ruben, you got to let him know it's for us. Let him know. I think Ruben has PayPal, actually. But if you want to do that, email me, and I'll see if Ruben is okay with that. Don't just do it automatically, because, again, you got to pay tax on that stuff. So I don't want to unfairly burden Ruben with taxes. But I think he does. But just make sure it's okay with him first. With that said, I love you guys. God bless you guys. Thank you for coming on here for 3 hours. I appreciate it, especially in a day now where everything's about TikTok and 3-minute videos. And to get people to watch you for more than 10 minutes is amazing. We appreciate, we love you. Thank you for listening to me as my testimony for the exaltation, the exposition, and the just frustration with dealing with the slanders. I appreciate it. We love you guys. Thank you again, and I'll see you guys Saturday. Make sure you get notified, because you're going to want to see that preach in Texas. So make sure you are subscribed to the Words for Christ channel and hit that bell to get notified. Love you guys. God bless you guys. I'll see you guys on Saturday.
Where's our war cry? We don't even know that we're at war. We don't understand that we're in hostile territory. This isn't a time of peace. It's against the principalities and the powers that are puppeteering the people. And we are in a position to see souls set free. This has been the ancient war cry throughout all the generations of the Hebrew nation. Rock, kasak. Where does it come from? Kasak, this is the Hebrew, the rock-like oomph of the spiritually zealous heart, the game face of a mighty man, tenacity of soul, the gritting of the teeth of the spirit-inspired warrior, and the baring of those teeth to the enemy. Kasak is possessing a resolute and growling resolve for the glory of God, a flush of spiritual fervor, a tensing of all a soldier's muscles. There's a kasak. We don't have that spiritually. We should. We don't. Because we don't know what we're engaged with. Did you know that you have the armory of heaven? That you have everything you need for life and godliness to push the enemy forces back? And so when you hear kasak, your knuckles spiritually should immediately turn white, and you should find yourself gritting your spiritual teeth with a belligerence against the enemy. He goes down. There are souls that must be saved. Okay, that's just kasak. The Hebrew statement is ra kasak. However, in the Bible, where that came from, it's kasak ematz. The other word that goes with it, ematz. It's heavenly audacity. It's rushing headlong into the most hazardous and impossible battles without pausing to consider the impossibilities. Who had ematz in the Bible? David against Goliath? That's some serious ematz. Okay, he's rushing headlong against the Goliath. It's like, David, we might want to think about this a little. No, I'm not weighing the impossibilities. This is for my God. It's a confidence in victory even before the field is taken. It's lambs moving with liquid ferocity straight into the lion's lair. How about the three that overheard him in the cave of Adullam? He says, oh, for a cup of cool water from the well of Bethlehem. Those guys had ematz. They go running out, break through a garrison of Philistines to grab a cup of cool water and then bring it back through the garrison. They're being hunted by Philistines the whole time, trying not to spill a cup of water. That's ematz. Mere men and women on earth are eaten up by the enemy. However, we're not just mere men and women of this earth. We are redeemed. We are bought with a price, and we've been changed into the body of Christ. Ematz means swift-footed, all-believing, super-conquering, prevailing faith in the Lord of battles. What happens to the world if Christians once again get kasak and ematz? You know what the apostles had after Pentecost? Something came into them. What was it? You can say it very simply. Kasak and ematz. Spirit of God. He came in to win. He came in to turn this world on its head. Moses' last gasp. This is his great speech before the promised land, which he never got to enter into. And he's laying out the ground rules for the kingdom that is about to be established across that Jordan River. Be strong and of good courage. Kasak, Hamas. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord thy God, he it is that does go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. And Moses called unto Joshua and said unto him in the sight of all Israel, Kasak, Hamas. Be strong and of good courage. For thou must go with this people unto the land which the Lord has sworn unto their fathers to give them, and thou shalt cause them to inherit it. Well, what's happening there? The men and women of God are coming to take what was purchased, the promise. You are surrounded by 31 hostile empires. You know, that's what they were headed into. 31 empires on the other side of that Jordan River. 31. This is where we are at as the Church of Jesus Christ, yet we are there without a war cry. Let's understand that we are out to win for the glory of Jesus Christ. And even if we die, we win. Doesn't matter what happens to our bodies. We obey, God wins. Now suddenly we're crossing. Joshua is the same name for Jesus in the New Testament, by the way. Yeshua. This is the Savior, the man of salvation, who has come in to bring us into the inheritance. Be strong and of good courage. For unto this people shalt thou divide for an inheritance the land which I swore unto their fathers to give them. Have I not commanded thee? Be strong and of good courage. Rock Kasak. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed. For the Lord thy God is with thee, whithersoever thou goest. Rock Kasak, Israel. Rock Kasak, men and women of God Almighty. All the powers of earth and hell that come against your soul, and all the powers of earth and hell that are puppeteering the lost masses, you hit them square in the teeth. And you show love to this world. To anyone who would spit in your face, you serve them and you love them in return and say, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. Rock Kasak, Israel.
You've been listening to Warriors for Christ. Biblical, bold, truth, uncompromising. We take the Bible literally, teaching and preaching truth without any preconceived ideas. America's leading street ministry, with the goal to wake up the church and to fight back against the wickedness in the world. We hope you've gotten some useful and inspirational information from the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. Till next time, we are Warriors for Christ.